A massive winged creature tears through the sky, larger than anything natural should be, as a voice wonders whether anyone has ever dreamed of meeting monster girls in another world. A young man stares up in shock, screaming in disbelief as the giant flying beast soars past him, kicking up dust and wind across the landscape. He stumbles backward in awe, recognizing the shape above him as a wyvern, estimating its wingspan at 15 meters and its weight near 200 kilograms, the size of a massive pterosaur. He starts calculating on the spot, noting that no living creature that size should be able to fly on muscle alone, and wonders how such giants ever sustained flight without wind. He realizes the truth: without wind, the creature doesn't fly at all. It runs, using raw leg strength to launch across any terrain, even skimming over water, and he begs to be sent home immediately. Still reeling, he grips the ground, screaming that this can't be a dream, and asks himself in disbelief if creature girls might actually exist in this world too. He stands motionless, staring at the sky and the flying shape above him, quietly repeating the question of whether he has truly been pulled into another world. The scene shifts to a university in Japan, introducing the story's second character, a sharp-eyed young man from the science department. The story rewinds 5 hours earlier, where the main character, Musume Daisuke, casually asks his friend how one would even go about pursuing romance with a centaur. His friend, unfazed, begins explaining an absurd theoretical method involving a pony and a girl positioned to disguise the anatomy using a skirt. The explanation grows more ridiculous as his roommate mocks him, calling him either a genius or an idiot. Insisting the line between the two is razor-thin, Daisuke sulks, disappointed that his fantasy was reduced to something so mundane, while his friend argues a costume would achieve the same effect without needing an actual pony. The conversation shifts to a giant spider girl, with his friend casually suggesting a giant crab shell as a seat, only to be told the fragile girl would be crushed instantly. Lying upside down, Daisuke drifts into a lazy fantasy of moving to another world, becoming an overpowered hero, and fathering an entire harem of creature girls. Suddenly, something strange happens around him, and he opens his eyes to find himself standing in an unfamiliar wilderness. In the present, he recalls mocking these kinds of isekai stories back home, never expecting to actually be thrown into one himself. He wanders through the eerie overgrown ruins, muttering that nothing else particularly strange has happened since arriving. Forcing himself to think clearly, he decides to treat the situation like a survival exercise, recalling techniques for making tools, fire, and shelter from nothing. In the distance, hunters with spears close in on a spider-like creature, while a young arachne girl curls up in fear, shielding herself as danger approaches. A hunter roars forward with his weapon raised, ready to strike, as the girl trembles beneath him in the chaos of the attack. The arachne girl screams in terror as the hunter's spear tears into her leg, her face frozen in shock and pain as the attack lands. Daisuke roars in fury and charges forward, slamming into the group of hunters and knocking them back, refusing to let them finish her off. He stands over her, screaming that this creature girl means everything to him, driving the hunters back with pure desperation and rage. The hunters demand to know who he is, stunned that a stranger would risk his life for an arachne, while the girl watches him, trembling and confused. Once the chaos settles, Daisuke checks on her gently, asking if she is unharmed, relief washing over his tense expression. The hunters explain themselves, revealing they are farmers from a nearby village whose wheat harvest was stolen, and the arachne is the one they suspect. The girl admits weakly that she took the wheat because her mother is sick and needs nourishment, her voice breaking as she confesses. The villagers argue back, insisting they too are starving and have no food to spare, refusing to simply forgive the theft. The lead hunter warns Daisuke not to interfere further, threatening violence if he keeps standing in their way. Daisuke stays silent for a moment, then proposes a deal, offering to make things right so no one has to be hurt over the missing grain. He offers to bring back double the wheat that was stolen in exchange for her freedom, trying to negotiate a peaceful resolution. The villagers scoff, demanding 10 times the amount instead, calling his first offer insulting given the trouble caused. The village chief steps in, revealing the real issue was never really about the wheat, but about maintaining order, and proposes an equivalent trade of 5 deer or matching food supplies within 10 days, asking Daisuke his name in return. Fired up, Daisuke declares himself boldly, giving his full name and proclaiming his goal of becoming a king surrounded by creature girls. The villagers react with a mix of pity and encouragement, unsure whether to laugh or support his outlandish declaration, telling him to do his best regardless. Later, alone with the girl, Daisuke reassures her that he is fine, brushing off the blow he took while protecting her. She, thanks him properly, insisting on treating the wound he took on her behalf, her gratitude clear despite her nervousness. She introduces herself formally as Nika, a member of the Ra tribe of Arachne, and offers to let him examine her in return for saving her life. Overwhelmed with excitement, Daisuke can barely contain himself at the idea of studying a real Arachne up close, his scientific curiosity taking over completely. He begins his examination eagerly, touching her spider legs and noting the texture of her hair and limbs, marveling that they feel just like a human girl's. Daisuke continues his hands on examination, growing more clinical and detached as his scientific fascination takes over completely, treating the moment as pure research rather than anything else. He sketches out theories about Arachne anatomy, reasoning through how 3 separate beings might have fused together during development to form her current physiology. Nia explains shyly that all others of her kind share this same body structure, noting that only males of her people retain a more human-like form. Daisuke processes this information intently, piecing together the biological implications of her species' unusual reproductive traits. Nia nervously demonstrates another unique trait of her body. Flustered, but willing to help satisfy his curiosity about her species, Daisuke reacts with amazement at the unexpected discovery, marveling at how her physiology adapted in ways he never anticipated. Nika grows increasingly embarrassed as the questions continue, her face flushing while she tries to answer everything he asks as best she can. Daisuke suddenly catches himself, realizing he has been completely absorbed in academic curiosity and may have lost sight of treating her with proper care. He reflects seriously that this world is filled with real monsters, and that danger could return at any moment despite his current excitement. He also acknowledges silently that creature girls truly exist here, as though praying gratefully to whatever force brought him to this world. Without warning, a massive winged predator swoops down and snatches Nisa into the air, catching both of them completely off guard. Nia struggles helplessly as she is carried off, dangling in the creature's grip while the ground falls away beneath her. Daisuke sprints after them in a panic, chasing the creature as it flies further from him with Nia still in its clutches. A second winged figure appears in the chaos, revealing herself to be a harpy who is also caught up in the commotion. The predator taunts them both, mocking their helplessness as it prepares to make its next move against its captives. Daisuke refuses to give up, shouting that he'll rescue them both no matter what it takes, his determination overriding his fear. He manages to catch hold of the harpy as she falls, cradling her safely in his arms and marveling briefly at how light she actually is despite her size. Grateful and relieved, the harpy introduces herself cheerfully as Rupi, quickly latching onto Daisuke's declared goal of building a creature girl harem. Rupi eagerly asks to be included, excited by the idea, and offering herself as another member of his growing group without hesitation. Daisuke, still catching his breath, questions how she flies without ever seeming to tire, curious once again despite the danger they just escaped. Rupi spreads her wings wide, explaining that a harpy's true form works like a hang glider fused with a living creature, combining unlimited soaring endurance with powerful running legs. Daisuke marvels at the comparison, realizing she shares this trait with albatrosses, able to run tirelessly across land or water when there is no wind to glide on. He examines her clawed feet closely, noting they seem built both for grasping prey while running and for snatching things directly out of the water. Rupi demonstrates her hunting technique, explaining that when chasing prey to exhaustion, she grabs stones and kicks them at the target's head to finish the job. Nia flinches and reacts sharply beside them, startled by something unexpected happening close by. Confused, Nisa asks whether harpies are actually just crows, prompting Daisuke to gently correct her assumption. He clarifies that Rupi is definitely one of them, a fellow companion he intends to bring along on this journey together. The two girls size each other up awkwardly, both clearly still getting used to sharing Daisuke's attention and company. Daisuke curiously asks how old Rupi actually is, since her small stature makes her age hard to guess. Rupi cheerfully answers that her people mature at a different pace, though her childlike appearance keeps causing confusion for everyone around her. Daisuke reassures himself that despite her looks, she is fully grown, officially confirming all his companions in this story are adults. Nia excitedly invites him to visit her home village properly now, insisting he come along instead of putting it off any longer. They travel together across the wetlands, following worn paths toward a distant settlement rising from the marsh. As they walk, Daisuke braces himself, expecting the smell of mud and filth from a primitive village, but is surprised to find no odor at all. Nia explains that they cover waste with fermented leaf compost regularly, which keeps the smell from building up. They finally arrive at the treetop village, an intricate settlement built high among massive interwoven branches. Villagers gather to greet them, visibly startled to see a human walking calmly among so many arachne. Nia shows Daisuke how residents climb the towering trees using nothing but their own strength and grip. No ropes required. The village chief welcomes him formally, thanking him for saving Nisa and treating him as an honored guest despite his human blood. The chief warns the villagers not to touch Daisuke's belongings, mistaking rupee for some kind of food supply before quickly being corrected that she is part of his growing harem instead. Nessa scolds Daisuke harshly for his reckless behavior, reducing him to a mess of nervous excuses while another arachne looks on amused by the scene. The mood shifts when Neka coughs weakly, revealing she has been fighting through illness this whole time despite her burst of energy and scolding. Her mother, Rainia, thanks Daisuke warmly for helping her daughter and gently corrects him when he assumes the sickness is something else entirely. She explains the illness locals call the fire curse, describing how sufferers develop fever that only cooling and a month of rest can fully cure, though many don't survive it. Daisuke immediately suspects the cooling method itself is the real danger, recalling that in his world lowering body temperature during certain fevers can be fatal rather than helpful. He questions further, learning that when the fever reaches the lower body, paralysis and death often follow shortly after, deepening his suspicion that the treatment is backwards. Rainia insists the method has always worked for others who recovered, defending generations of tradition even as Daisuke pushes back with cautious skepticism. He reasons through the arachne's unique physiology, theorizing their triple brain structure gives them unusual heat resistance compared to humans. Convinced cooling is actually worsening things, he insists on warming Nia instead. Despite Rainia's confusion and lingering doubt about abandoning the old remedy, he begins wrapping Nia in warmth immediately, moving with urgency as her fragile condition weighs heavily on his decision. He orders extra blankets and insists on keeping her lower body carefully insulated, still uncertain but committed to his theory. Rainia watches nervously, calling out to someone named R for help as tension rises around Nia's worsening state. The newcomer studies Daisuke intently, suddenly recognizing something unusual about him and asking directly if he might be a person from another world. In quiet night they gathered. Daisuke waited amid spider women, unsure how to respond. A strict woman arrived, eyeing Daisuke closely. She was Miss Anir's mother's dearest friend, also intrigued. Miss A asked Daisuke's background, old stories told of otherworlders causing shifts. Her voice mixed faith and care. Daisuke recalled Taishi's obsession with otherworlds. Unlike to Earth, this land seemed like a slower, basic civilization. He considered even basic learning could disrupt this realm. Knowing their weakness gave him with grave duty, Daisuke grasped the burden of his origin. Learning quietly could shift nations or doom him entirely. He asked for secrecy. After her pledge, he shared the facts. His realm was Japan, modern. The tiny fire shocked them. A ordinary lighter here seemed like sacred fire to unaware gaze. Daisuke declared himself boldly. He gave help, but with one term, help him in his odd goal. Nearby quiet came after the admission. Nia paused, uncertain if she should take his intense, unusual proposal. At Sashioi village, the leader judged Daisuke. His naive candor somehow created an odd kind of trust. They believed Daisuke's only choice would be to search in the demon forest during this risky period, having escaped the forest before. They thought Daisuke could convince the arachne and survive again. Back at the house, the group shared a warm meal. Keen talons moved gently over timber. Learning of the task, Daisuke learned he must go back to the forest he narrowly fled the first time. Winter neared and food grew limited. Miss A said that only the demon forest stayed safe to hunt. Though hunting monsters there was feasible, the odds of coming back safe, or at all, were just as uncertain. Miss A shared a private wound. Her mother died to a forest beast. She arrived solely when needed. The forest teemed with threats. Tree demons, fierce hunters, and dragons made living an unlikely miracle. To stress her caution, Miss A revealed her spider legs, lethal, sharp, precise, and ready for battle. Miss A admitted arachne advantage over people, but even their ability couldn't guarantee survival in that forest. Nia revealed their custom gear, small bows and bogans. Each Spider-Woman could use several at once, remarkably efficient. Their arms were harsh and altered for force, but plainly not standard issue, tools made for deadly effectiveness. Repeater bogans existed too, but their power quietly wasn't enough. Poison became needed against harder creatures. Nitia showed with accuracy, firing bolts in rapid sequence. Her form revealed both elegance and overwhelming lethality. Miss A's body worked like an engine, bolts fired in fast pace filling the field with bolts. Daisuke was amazed. She wasn't just equipped, she was the arm speed met horrid inborn nature. Rapid bows fired fast but missed power. Their weak cords wore readily under constant tension during battle. Daisuke studied the repeater's build, though pace. It was considered unsafe, used mainly by misfits or novices. Miss A agreed, without they got quick deaths, they'd be overwhelmed before poisons could even activate. Miss A asked Daisuke directly, could he help them survive? Daisuke confessed he planned to go anyway. Daisuke consented to help, asking for plant facts. She cautioned him, some methods were fully banned for survival. Banned devices like powder and motors caused devastating monster swarms. Their source stayed a horrid, unknown riddle. They named it the Beast Stampede. One era 10 years ago had ruined an entire citadel. Alone in thought, Daisuke feared. He knew precisely how to improve their weapons, but feared the consequences. Daisuke chuckled grimly. Their realm even now used bowguns. His opportunity to bring modern innovation had vanished. He snapped. The banned rules made useful advances unworkable. Anything resembling advanced force was branded a deadly taboo. His frustration exploded. No magic, no clarity, just unclear limits and strangely modern old knowledge of weapons. Faced with unclear limitations, he struggled. Nothing beat labor. Progress was limited by nature, risk, and vague rules. Eventually, Daisuke quit. Maybe no new arm was needed. The women even now battled like professionals. A horrid memory shocked him. Defeat meant a person would die. Daisuke forced courage into his mind. He reviewed the weapons, repeating missed force. Small bows lacked pace. Something stronger had to remain amid. Daisuke studied the plans. Slow loading, weak bodies, rapid firearms weren't built to win. Only stall. He mumbled all evening, drawing plans. If magic was banned, then liquid force would substitute it. Tired, he handed the drawings over. They were ready. Miss A would handle the rest. Daisuke completed pair of devices, fast-firing bowguns, optimized for pressure and speed, powered with mechanical hand-crank precision. Water wheels enabled mass production. His plans started growth, greatly cutting time and effort to craft weapons. Nika enjoyed happy news. Her mother's health recovered. Daisuke got approval with uneasy modesty and weary relief. Nia surprised him with a bold offer. Her act, though honest, left him stunned and silent. Her request turned personal and plain. Though frank, her faith in him showed purity more than lust. Nika's odd body allowed her to hold to surfaces, prompting Daisuke's intense but clinical examination session. Interest turned to mating chance. Nika firmly asserted reproductive compatibility, while others observed their tension-filled interactions secretly. As social charts shared bodily changes, Daisuke processed how intimacy meant something else among Arachne society, though the intense mood. Nisa's aims were plain. She sought a future through physical union and lineage. Afterward, as the strain eased, Nika softly agreed Daisuke's presence, her expression soft but deeply affected. Nika stiffened when asked about her emotions. Uncertain how to state what had clearly taken root. Told she could guide Daisuke's future, Nisa softly heard, weighed by expectation and overwhelming implication. Her mother's words was direct. Daisuke's worth surpassed anything, and Nisa must not hesitate or falter. Feelings rose as Nia accepted the guidance, choosing Daisuke with intent, devotion, and an unspoken inner resolve. Nia had already made her choice. Daisuke was hers. 2 days passed. Miss A observed something. Miss A used 4 small bows fitted as rapid bows, firing volleys faster than any trained marksman could manage. The Ripshaw model stunned her with kickback power, beating expectations for weapons once made for defense only. She realized its true purpose, no longer support fire, but an aggressive high-volume system for lethal suppression. Though its chance operating 4 units proved physically taxing. Testing continued to ensure structural integrity under stress. Model flaws remained expected. Engineers moved hastily, pushing rules while caution Miss A to avoid risky contact. Miss A enjoyed tea with quiet grace, her posture relaxed, but her gaze tests Daisuke's purpose. As she sips, village norms unfold, women protect, men support. Daisuke's invention intrigues the matriarchal warriors deeply. Daisuke explains his plans stem from another realm. Misa connects his learning to crafted arms. He admits improvising under force, Misa probes deeper, intrigued whether his plans hold any real precedent. Daisuke grins nervously, accepting praise. Miss A, skeptical but impressed, acknowledges his insight with restrained approval. Overjoyed by praise, Misa rewards Daisuke with exaggerated affection, startling him more than encouraging him. She teases him casually, reflecting on how her culture uses such gestures to influence or disarm. Unnoticed nearby, a gelatinous beast silently rises from the underbrush, pulsing faintly with slow, deliberate movement. Misa freezes, alarmed. Daisuke watches the blob ooze closer, its unfamiliar texture evoking instinctive panic. Unlike harmless ones in stories, this slime shifts unpredictably, reacting aggressively. Daisuke braces as it lunges. Daisuke reacts instinctively, grabbing the slime. Its body pulses unnaturally, wrapping around his hand without resistance. The slime's surface sizzles unnaturally, secreting an odd heat. Daisuke's hand is fast enveloped and compromised. Pain shoots through him. He stumbles back, amazed, discovering his hand marked with odd bubbling punctures. They panic as the beast wriggles closer. Daisuke yells, Misa scrambles. Nothing prepared them for this. Furious and injured, Daisuke retaliates with force, driving his blade down to crush the writhing menace. Daisuke barely recovers before more slimes emerge. He braces once more, stunned by the growing numbers. Wide-eyed and feared, he watches the swarm scatter. The risk momentarily passes, leaving quiet behind. Misa trembles, confirming the threat has vanished. Daisuke assures her, bitten as Nisa rush to them. Ease turns into laughter. Others arrive at the scene, confused and concerned by the group's reaction. Naya explains slime's odd nature. Daisuke vents frustration. Cutting didn't help, and now his hand throbs unnaturally. Daisuke realizes the beast mimics a colony, using absorbed bodies to substitute structure and generate movement. He theorizes the slime's power comes from combined organisms, mimicking muscle systems by merging living matter. He explains the slime isn't singular, it's a group operating collectively, explaining the cluster of bite marks. Through his injury, Daisuke marvels at its nature. Miss A feels ashamed but is reassured by others. She apologizes, blaming herself. Daisuke gently reframes their roles, offering comfort and admiring her power without judgment. Misa softly confesses her trauma. Childhood scars from a massive slime left deep-rooted fear and lasting pain. Elsewhere, armored suits are fitted. A new mission begins, and Daisuke prepares alongside the village warriors. Daisuke examines the armor's style and structure, noting its odd rigidity and protective material against harsh strikes. The unit enters the forest. Daisuke joins training to test new equipment while identifying safe terrain markers. As strain builds, Daisuke steadies himself. His new bow, freshly designed, will now face its initial trial. Just as Daisuke prepares to fire, a hidden predator awakens above, its ambush timed with horrid accuracy. As Daisuke turns, a monstrous tree reveals itself, an ambushing treant looming high above the canopy. Treants erupt violently, flinging armored warriors through the air. Daisuke realizes they resemble mythical guardians named Ents. The team hacks away furiously. Fire is needed, but moisture prevents ignition without sustained damage first. Its power surpasses pressure, throwing bodies effortlessly. Beneath its disguise, it hides intense brute force and accuracy. The battlefield hordes with shrieking trees. Daisuke sees them for what they are: pure living despair incarnate. Stunned by the enemy's power, Miss A gives the order, fall back before they're completely overrun. Though retreat orders, Daisuke pushes forward quietly, determined to stand his ground against the advancing treants. Suddenly, the trees groan. Miss A and Daisuke freeze, sensing something massive shifting nearby in the canopy. A monstrous limb closes around Daisuke, crushing his armor. Panic rises. He's limited and about to be crushed. Misa screams, orders for support. Daisuke refuses to fall, rallying everyone into coordinated, desperate counterattack formation. Misa charges alongside Nia. The team advances through chaos, blades flashing, bark and branches flying. Treants whip legs wildly, firing defenders into the air. The battlefield shakes beneath fierce, tangled force. Daisuke insists on finishing the beast. The others panic, stunned by its power, defenses, and enormous jaws. Working in sync, warriors loop silk around the treant's legs. Daisuke orders full restraint before it retaliates. Misa shouts final orders. Firepower intensifies. No hesitation, only unified, fierce labor to bring the beast down. Bound in silk and pierced by coordinated strikes, the massive treant finally collapses with a haunting groan. Tired soldiers check for injuries, ease spreads. Some marks seem unfamiliar, raising questions about treant intelligence for the first time. They realize retreat wasn't their only option. A treant now lies defeated. Calculations follow. With 6 tons of burden, it's no wonder the treant burned energy so rapidly. As combat ends, Anara thanks her rescuer. Daisuke responds casually, his wild dream yet quite much alive. Anara, flustered but grateful, gave an unexpected request, her words uneasy. The mood around Daisuke turned instantly. Before feelings escalated further, the group redirected their focus, dissecting the treant's remains to uncover its nature. As blades pierced bark and flesh, the interior shared unnatural teeth. Daisuke asked if treants remained truly plants. Though appearances, their fast movements suggested animal traits, moisture control alone couldn't explain the treant's violent agility. The lifeless body resembled wood, but deeper structures hinted at tendons. Daisuke found what might be a heart. A odd private frame, spinal, ribbed, and flexible, left Daisuke silent. The beast's parts defied normal bodily categories. Veins in the leaves extended unnaturally, hinting at thermal regulation. Its bone pattern resembled underwater invertebrates. The team theorized this was a wholly new evolutionary species. No parallel existed in Earth's known biology. Training halted. Fearful yet fascinated, they retreated to reassess, shaken by what this unnatural origin implied. Further study agreed the meat became inedible, foul, toxic, decomposing fast, but the bone structure proved invaluable. As night fell, Daisuke prepared for the expedition. The Harpies, meanwhile, engaged in pre-mission rituals quietly. Harpies welcomed Daisuke's being there with faith, initiating a social exchange rooted in instinct, closeness, and old tradition. Though unburdened by clothing, their society retained modern language, tool use, and a deep interest toward outsiders. Their values centered on joy and freedom. Bodily bonds considered beliefs in impermanence and enjoyed emotional experience. Though tiny stature, their maturity became contextual. Daisuke struggled to reconcile norms amid worlds during this study. Daisuke, stunned by instinct and duty, contemplated the implications of bonding with various beast girls long-term. The emotional energy amid them rose sharply, shaped by social hopes, nature, and deep cross-species interest. Later, under the moonlight, Daisuke found himself silently reflecting. Something about this realm yet disturbed him. He realized the treant's defeat needed intense force, proof that people were no longer nature's dominant force. Everyone here risked their lives daily. Even with basic devices, they faced monsters beyond new knowing. Daisuke silently asked his purpose, whether instinct and indulgence truly matched his growing doubts about belonging here. The Arachne warriors rallied behind a fiery speech. Their morale rose, hardened by pain and preparation. Their convoy rolled toward the demon forest. Daisuke felt alive. Yet uncertainty churned deep in his gut. What awaited them wasn't glory, but grotesque horror. A monstrous corpse twitched, evidence that nightmares were real. The centaur pauses her cart as distant shadows approach. Something grave and organized advances from the woods. She steps cautiously out, recognizing the marching forms. Arachne soldiers moving in unison, arms drawn, plainly mobilized. Daisuke and his group observe silently. Concern grows. These aren't scouts, they're armored, prepared, and headed somewhere fast. Realizing the strain, the centaur prepares her crossbow. She changes course, heading to a safer destination, fast. Rustling alerts her to nearby risk. A boar herd emerges. She readies her arm with measured breath. Daisuke steadied the massive arm. 13 kilos was no joke, but the target was cornered. The bolts screamed through the brush. A dozen boars scattered, several struck with pinpoint force and pace. The chaos intensified. Boars collapsed mid-charge while others scrambled in panic, injured and disoriented by accuracy fire. Tension gave way to triumph. Daisuke's first hunt was a success. His instincts had finally kicked in. Praise followed, though shaky aim. His shot proved lethal. With guidance, he delivered the finishing blow cleanly. The screams echoed. Daisuke watched as the creatures were restrained, their final movements tense and unsettling. Though clean wounds, the boars writhed unnaturally. Daisuke asked their suffering, shaken by the lingering motion. He heard closely as Anara said preservation, soaking, cleaning, blood drainage, all to prevent foul decay. Organs were selected with precision. Blood was strained, boiled, and set aside for use in food. Everything was used, intestines, stomach, even blood. Daisuke's look twisted, realizing the full cost of speed. From amid the trees, unseen figures emerged. The group sensed movement, unnatural, slow, yet disturbingly focused. Lifeless forms stumbled forward, their bodies plainly wrong, torn, twisted, and driven by something unseen. Daisuke and the others agreed it. They remained undead. Corpses animated by blood scent and darker forces. The wounds should have been fatal. Yet motion continued. They asked reality until one voice whispered, "Is this magic?" Orders were given swiftly. Nika grasped. It was time to act before the threat reached them. Nisa unleashed her full pace. Blades tore through undead with machine accuracy, unrelenting, swift, and surgically harsh. Daisuke stared in disbelief. Her movements defied logic. A fictional swordsman's technique felt tame by comparison. Curious yet unsettled, Daisuke requested permission to study a body. Misa granted it, cautiously, reluctantly. Peeling back layers, Daisuke noted anomalies, missing tissue, and unnatural motion. A corpse, yet disturbingly active inside. Afterward, the facts shared itself. Beneath the mask of flesh writhed something alien, parasitic, and grotesquely alive. Daisuke reeled as he learned the facts. Meatworms consumed muscles, animating the corpses from within. "Miss-A," said the nature. Worms worked inside hosts like slime, using existing structure to search. Daisuke shuddered, watching them boil. That day, he realized zombie fiction missed real realm horror by comparison. With night approaching, the group secured camp. Their haul was heavy, but threats still lingered nearby. Bonfires blazed bright. Fire gave safety, but its light could too draw monsters who dreaded nothing. Night fell hard. Visibility vanished. Even Arachne gaze struggled past the bonfire's edge. Shadows stirred unnervingly. The darkness felt unnatural, too complete. Daisuke's thoughts spiraled as he sensed danger far beyond memory. The surfaces gave no comfort. Monsters waited beyond, testing nerves. Even weapons warped under mounting force. No one told above a whisper. Fire blinded more than it helped. Fear sharpened every breath. He chewed in quiet blood sausage, foreign, earthy, strangely rich. The forest replied with rustling sounds. The night dragged on. Daisuke realized the dark stripped people of illusion. They weren't apex hunters here. The fire's glow shrank against vast black. Surrounded, they felt like prey just waiting for discovery. Dawn broke softly. Rupi fired into the sky. Rapid, alert, her wings slicing through morning air. She soared with accuracy. Daisuke marveled, analyzing airflow mechanics as she climbed without relying on wind. Rupi returned swiftly. She'd scouted prey and terrain, her instincts keen, her being there a vital advantage. Daisuke noticed silently as the deer charged. Spears flew, piercing targets with speed, but they yet moved. Wounded deer trembled, muscles torn yet active. Their dying power stayed risky. One final lunge could kill. Even with clean strikes, living instincts lingered. Death came late. Risks stayed high. Hesitation wasn't tolerated. Daisuke struggled. His strikes missed power. Miss-A named out. Technique mattered further than brute labor here. Suddenly, Rupi tensed. She heard new movement, unfamiliar and numerous. Something else was rapidly closing in. Misa barked orders. Troops scrambled into formation as flapping wings closed in through the trees. Dark shapes descended fast. She recognized them instantly. Lesser demons. Her fury flared with private vengeance. Grotesque figures emerged. Twisted, primal, and fierce. Demons bred for violence. Cavemen in style but utterly inhuman. Lesser demons breached the airspace, shrieking wildly below. Their ground forces modern in organized formation. Their grotesque bodies and chaotic shrieks gave the camp. Soldiers braced. These were monsters beyond ordinary threat. Though their mass, the creatures moved fast. Even damaged, they pressed forward until completely ruined. Daisuke studied their style, part ungulate, part humanoid. Their body suggested sacrifice or forced evolution over visit. With horror, he reached a conclusion. Though their guide, behavior, and mutations, these monsters remained once human. A massive bolt struck Daisuke's cover. The barricade trembled, but he held his position steady. Reassuring the team, Daisuke rejoined formation. Demons swarmed in waves, numbers rising, force mounting from every side. Daisuke noticed their familiar guide, human shoulders. These weren't beasts. Their traits considered humanity's basic power and resilience. Through arms quietly, mankind overcame inborn weakness. Their ingenuity forged devices that outmatched claw, tooth, and wing. What beasts named magic became simply living. Stones hurled with aim, and clubs gripped with practiced fury. Daisuke said human endurance, persistence hunting. Before intellect, nature quietly allowed them to run prey to death. But in this world, humanity wasn't alone. Lesser demons held evolved to task inborn supremacy head-on. Waves of winged attackers circled the stronghold. Traps fired, but numbers stunned their outer defenses fast. Demons breached the perimeter. Defensive units scrambled. A shadow loomed, thick-skinned and almost immune to steel. With a furious cry, Misa charged forward. Every strike had to count. There'd be no retreat. Misa roared for morale as defenses held. A machine archer crushed a demon with harsh force. 10 elite Arachne archers loosed bolts with accuracy. Their combined power matched 40 skilled human bowmen in combat. Hydraulic arms enhanced their output, equating 80 soldiers' modern weapons. Ripe Sea Claw and Riplass tore demons apart effortlessly. Massed arrow fire equivalent to 600 warriors devastated the enemy. Half the shots decapitated demons instantly. Realizing spinal hits halted demons, the defenders pressed advantage. Though being outnumbered, their firepower secured sudden battlefield dominance. Misa weeps with joy beside a slain beast, calling out in triumph to his mother in a sudden charge. She pierces a demon through the chest, shouting a vow for revenge. Another demon lunges forward. Undeterred by the carnage, its monstrous body crashing through defensive structures without hesitation. Though losing their heads, the demons relentlessly advance, forcing Miss A to confront their unnatural persistence quietly. A harsh impact smashes into Miss A, flinging his body back as the assault refuses to end. A massive demon strike crashes into Daisuke's armor, sending shards flying as panic grips the defenders. Misa scrambles back into cover, shocked by the raw power. She activates her mounted crossbow defensively. Her bolt hits true, impaling the demon. Daisuke slumps forward, wounded. His name barely escapes her lips. Daisuke regains balance and rushes over, worried for Miss A. Both confirm they're alive, spirits yet intact. As they steady themselves, dozens of machine walkers approach. A new enemy force marches across the battlefield. After surviving, Daisuke discusses the lesser demons, old beasts warped by magic and religious sacrifice rituals. A mysterious beast watches from afar, disappointed their encounter with people yielded no useful exchange or knowing. Elsewhere, tribal leaders discuss Daisuke's prophecy. He's thought to collect women from various beast races as destined. The village braces as cheers erupt. Daisuke's devices and bravery help defend against treants and human invaders. Misa publicly praises Daisuke's heroism. The crowd cheers as he is honored for saving lives and innovating arms. As the village prepares another expedition, Nisa and Daisuke discuss safety and past hunting grounds. While eating grilled meat, Daisuke suddenly remembers a person important from his old life, his best friend, Taishi. He tells Nisa about Taishi, an odd but loyal friend with bad luck and a love for food. Daisuke wonders aloud, what if Taishi also got transported here? Somewhere deep in this unknown realm. Elsewhere, Taishi panics quietly in the wild, confused, hungry, and pursued by horrid flying monsters overhead. Fleeing beastmen beg for help. Taishi freezes as a monstrous bird lunges straight toward his face. Moments later, Taishi sits calmly amid fallen beasts, carving devices from bones with shocking accuracy and quiet. Realizing the risk, Taishi sharpens a makeshift blade, trembling yet deep inside. Something fierce awakens within him. Daisuke arrived alone, unaware Anara's instincts would overwhelm her. Her dominant nature fast seized full control, caught in an unfamiliar culture. Daisuke endured ritual behavior justified by Arachne norms, though plain discomfort. He stayed yet, trying to process her actions. Helpless, he mentally recorded the encounter like a researcher. Suddenly emotional, Anara accepted him tightly. Her regret surfaced too late, leaving Daisuke disoriented and silent. Anara apologized in confusion. Daisuke tried knowing her purpose, uncertain whether her remorse outweighed her instinct. Anara teased Daisuke's behavior, comparing human hands to odd appendages, yet gradually warming to their touch. Through her teasing, Anara grew intrigued about Daisuke's thoughts on her species, questioning mutual perceptions and discomfort. Before parting, Anara stated herself once further, unwilling to release him without reclaiming full control one final visit. Elsewhere, distant from the forest, waves whispered across the coast near a quiet, moonlit merfolk village. Princess Kana welcomed Lord Iruka, concealing unease beneath formality, as an arranged meeting softly masked deeper strain. Iruka pressed close, masking his aims behind false concern. Kana stayed composed, hiding discomfort behind grave quiet. Kana said her duty. To her, a princess had no choice, only purpose and silent acceptance. Her words, closely spoken, concealed quiet defiance. Yet Iruka saw only seduction and yielded further to temptation. A sudden interruption halted the act. Kana, now flustered, held to face her people's silent witness. Thou driven by lust, Iruka agreed to her conditions. Kana endured, gaze distant, heart buried beneath duty. Kana asked her worth, aware she was bartered like coin, just a political tool for living's price. Though her sorrow, Kana played her part. Iruka's departure left behind quiet, longing, and private pain. Later, as night deepened, Kana collapsed under pressure. Her mind drifted, her power nearly broken. A soldier, powerless to act, begged anyone for aid. The forest answered solely with looming quiet. By morning, Daisuke and his allies resumed their trek, weary, armored, unaware of the call for help. The forest trembled. Troops scrambled into position as a monstrous scorpion broke through with violent crashing force. Towering over them, the giant exoskeletal beast Modern. Soldiers froze, stunned by its sheer unnatural proportions. While one studied its nature mid-crisis, others shouted tactics, arming poison bolts, avoiding ricochet, preparing for combat. Observations agreed the worst. Its shell rivaled steel, its legs crushed trees. They faced a living siege engine. From high above, Miss A aimed calmly. Her shot flew, piercing the beast's flank with lethal, measured accuracy. The arrow struck hard. The beast shocked violently, its body convulsing as poison coursed through its system. The archers coordinated shots, careful not to overdo it. Targeting vital spots, they avoided spoiling edible portions. Bolts pierced deep. They'd need to carve out tainted meat. Wolfsbane was effective, but rendered flesh unusable. The scorpion thrashed wildly, nearing death. The hunters stayed back, recalling past failures with weaker arms and tactics. Daisuke watched Anara lift him with ease. Her power reminded him how weak people truly were. Daisuke agreed his theory. The beast held bone armor layered over an exoskeleton, more complex than expected. He examined the spiracles, now lungs. The beast wasn't truly insect, just a mammal with arthropod traits. Body lessons continued. Internal skeletons support muscle mass. Exoskeletons can't grow as large without collapsing under force. Daisuke said evolutionary divergence. Giant scorpions aren't insects. They split off millions of years ago and specialized. They weren't bugs anymore. Their skeletons evolved for living during molting, further like vertebrates than typical arthropods. In the human kingdom of Osama, Taishi arrived nervously, summoned to the palace for royal business. The king introduced himself grandly. Osama VIII exuded force, immediately shifting the voice of the meeting. Suddenly, a chaotic jester named Piero appeared, mocking Taishi with keen insults veiled in exaggerated clownish bravado. Taishi agreed his source. The king dismissed Piero's nonsense and addressed the guest as a foreign genius. Recognizing Taishi's achievements, the king gave a deal: expertise in go back for wealth, security, and national advancement. Taishi modestly requested only a maid. The king insisted this gesture alone was insufficient compensation. Amazed by the outcome, Taishi marveled at the country's appreciation of learning and the maid's beauty. Behind the scenes, Piero deployed Maya to watch Taishi, posing as caretaker, lover, and strategic surveillance. Maya calmly accepted her role. Binding him through offspring was just part of her mission plan. Though her poise, Maya judged him coldly. She expected brilliance. What she saw was underwhelming practicality. The king formally assigned Maya to protect and serve Taishi, granting him full honored guest status. Piero cautioned Taishi sternly, reminding him Maya was a servant, not a private object of lust. The king excused Piero's behavior, revealing his role as a court jester meant to provoke uncomfortable truths. Taishi admitted Piero's clever purpose. Unexpected praise sparked laughter, signaling the start of Taishi's new royal chapter. Escorted by maids, Taishi waited amazed. A lavish mansion now marked the beginning of his new life. Maya agreed everything belonged to Taishi: house, grounds, furnishings, all gifted to him as permanent royal property. He was officially their employer. Maya clarified the maid's pay came from the kingdom, not him. Maya said duties extended beyond domestic work. Even reproduction logistics would be managed discreetly to preserve his focus. Shocked silent, Taishi couldn't process the implications. The situation felt far stranger than any dream or plan. He excused himself nervously. Maya and the maids watched in silence, already prepared for what came next. Maya watched him softly. Though unknown, she confessed he wasn't aggressive or reckless. A manageable person, perhaps. The other maids were skeptical. Their thoughts painted Taishi as weak, uneasy, and lacking confidence or charm. From above, Maya offered strict orders, absolute respect for Taishi, any way of private opinions or private frustrations. She reminded them he held vital status. His gentleness was a gift, not a weakness. Though uneasy, the maids agreed. Maya knew their hesitation well. She'd once asked him the same exact way. Panicking, Taishi realized his time in isolation wrecked his ability to behave normally around others. He spiraled into regret, convinced everyone noticed his awkward stares and misread every cue he gave. Determined to redeem himself, Taishi swore to respect boundaries and act with composure from now on. As he paced, Taishi hoped a problem would appear, something to prove his worth through action. He formed an odd request for self-discipline, asking the maids to strike him randomly as training. Taishi tried avoiding eye contact. Maya stayed skeptical, reading his efforts as uneasy rather than noble. He said his martial arts theory, emphasizing mental preparedness. She reconsidered, sensing genuine labor behind his restraint. Old masters endured ambushes and overcame traps. Power quietly wasn't enough. Awareness and readiness defined true living. The best warriors fell when unprepared. Plan, not muscle, determined living against sneak attacks and battlefield chaos. True combat mastery meant reacting instantly, using learning, movement, and terrain awareness to reverse any disadvantage. The Ortishu-style martial arts aimed to create elite warriors capable of silent movement, like ninjas. Maya consented to comply with his training methods, provided they wouldn't cause any lasting bodily damage. While demonstrating a strike, Maya instinctively reacted, blocking a sneak attack from a hidden enemy nearby. Impressed by her swift and exact reaction, Ortishu praised Maya's ability and softly noted her scent. The watching maids misinterpreted the scene, stunned by admiration for their master's perceived stoicism and accuracy. Taishi arrives at the new house, uneasy. He is respected for power, yet dismissed for everything else. He battles doubt. Acting distant makes things worse, but approaching risks being misunderstood. Confidence slowly crumbles again. Piero suddenly appears, eerily amused. He compliments Taishi's power, but his voice hints at deeper mockery. With unsettling interest, Piero probes Taishi's private struggles. Taishi deflects, but the force leaves him cornered and humiliated. Piero's mockery grows sharper, cutting into Taishi's insecurity. Every word magnifies his shame and silent sense of defeat. Piero mocks Taishi's imagination, suggesting reckless candor. He then proposes a troubling idea to fix him. Piero presses Taishi toward intimacy with Maya. Taishi, conflicted, rejects the idea due to private discomfort. Piero insists affection is transactional, encouraging practice. Taishi is stunned. Uncertain if this logic makes sense, Piero laughs, offering specifics. Taishi's panic rises, yet his hesitance is fading under persistent, twisted persuasion. Maya interrupts sharply, objecting to coercion. Her bluntness exposes underlying discomfort masked by Piero's fierce, mocking voice. Taishi flinches as Piero crosses a line. Maya watches silently. Strain thick amid all three, Piero whispers coldly. Taishi failed to react. Realization strikes hard. Shame and regret surge through his chest. Piero departs with mocking laughter. Maya warns Taishi bluntly, urging him to be cautious with choices. Thou, her measured voice, Maya wrestles with disappointment. Taishi apologizes, burdened down by guilt and inaction. Suddenly, Maya steps forward. With courage and faint blush, she offers plain help. On her own terms, Maya offers gentle bodily contact, framing it playfully. Taishi panics, stunned by force and unclear emotions. He tries to respond calmly, but doubts swirl. Insecure, he wonders if someone else would have fared better. Elsewhere, Daisuke is surrounded by bold, forward women. Though chaos, he somehow seems comfortable with the attention. A monstrous woman looms in the shadows, watching. Her presence promises danger unlike anything faced before. Daisuke relaxed near the treehouse, softly proud. The mission succeeded, and tomorrow they'd deliver supplies as promised. Without caution, Rainia tackled Daisuke with excitement, her affectionate energy intense his calm and stealing his breath. Pulled close into a warm embrace, Daisuke froze as Rainia softly thanked him for saving her home, cradling him with gentle playfulness. Rainia teased Daisuke's reactions, amused by how flustered he'd become in her grasp. Her voice turned deeper. With layered meaning, Rainia asked him where he'd prefer their connection to deepen next. Rainia escalated her teasing, challenging Daisuke's restraint with layered suggestions and unsettling talk of generational closeness. Speaking openly, Rainia confessed weakness and history, blurring lines as her voice hinted at long-held loneliness. Torn amid impulse and hesitation, Daisuke's composure shattered. Instinct overruled thought as he dove in without pause. Though conflicted, Reina confessed longing. Daisuke resisted, citing Nisa's absence, but her warmth formed refusal increasingly difficult. Reina whispered a reckless request, crossing a sacred line under silence, hiding results from daughter and recollection. Daisuke feared internally, caught in Reina's hold, stunned by temptation, blaming her for his crumbling resistance. In a private meeting, Reina defended Daisuke's worth, urging the others to take him without bias. Though his source stayed concealed, the council consented. Daisuke's results justified faith, pending his eventual private disclosure. Though Daisuke's discomfort, Reina teased him with intensity, blurring affection and dominance, yet testing his emotional rules. Reina said social gender roles, urging Daisuke to remain as he is, valued, strong, and readily desired. Reina whispered provocative encouragement, amusing Daisuke, who nervously chuckled off the crude suggestion aimed at Miss A. Back at the house, Miss A overheard something shocking. Her amazed reaction hinted at confusion and disbelief. Flustered, Missa challenged the idea of being old. Daisuke clumsily referenced social hopes around age. Missa confessed she'd prioritized living skills over romance. Daisuke gently reassured her, surprising her with warmth. Daisuke's tone turned mischievous. He smiled darkly, declaring purpose, playful yet unnerving, as if teasing a sudden reversal. Daisuke shocked Miss A with a sudden move. Her amazed reaction masked a deeper strain beneath interest. She struggled to remain composed. Silent questions gave the air as their connection intensified in quiet urgency. Increased weakness surfaced. Though her flustered appearance, Daisuke stayed focused, softly evaluating her reactions alongside his ongoing thoughts. Elsewhere, Sashioi village stirred. Armed guards noticed a group approaching, uncertainty clouding their otherwise routine patrol. Daisuke and the Arachne caravan arrived. Guards watched cautiously, shocked by the peaceful approach and offering. Daisuke and his group neared Sashioi's gates. The guards halted them, unsure of their purpose and intent. Strain hung in the air. Daisuke noticed their nervousness, impressed by their handmade armor's clever craftsmanship. The village chief arrived. Daisuke gave further than promised, impressing him with generosity and strong follow-through. Reina stepped forward to apologize, but the leader kindly dismissed it, acknowledging her daughter's motivations without judgment. Smiling, the leader refused apologies. The trade balanced the past, securing peace amid the people in Arachne. The chief accepted the offering. Daisuke sensed something was off and asked about their tense posture. Within the village, Neka reacted in shock. The name Red Caps caused sudden, quiet dread. The chief shared grim news. Recent attacks claimed lives. Red Caps were moving closer without fear. Described as masked beings in iron boots, Red Caps wanted solely human blood, sparing other species fully. Daisuke asked their classification. His calm task hinted skepticism toward the leader's prejudice and assumptions about others. The leader said differing human branches, some allied with humans, others, like Red Caps, were marked by hostility. He added that alliances amid non-people often excluded humans, reinforcing how fractured the realm's balance truly was. Amid all dangers, Red Caps were dreaded most. Basic yet vicious, they slaughtered without reason or hesitation. Daisuke, unlike them to evening-skilled soldiers, disturbed by their pace and awareness, their threat level felt intense. The chief shared intel. Though being outnumbered, the Red Caps' camp became vulnerable. Only 5 true fighters stayed. Just as the leader announced an extermination plan, a commanding voice interrupted with urgent opposition. "Wait!" A noble from the capital arrived, arguing against harming non-combatants. Even amid announced enemy species, tensions rose. The noble cited peaceful coexistence, while the leader countered with bloody examples and private frustration. The noble pleaded emotionally. Daisuke paused, torn amid justice and mistrust, unknown whether to intervene or stay quiet. Daisuke grimaced, caught in moral conflict, though repulsed by the noble. He couldn't deny the facts underneath. Faced with mounting force from all sides, the noble waited frozen, torn amid ideals and village fury. Daisuke sat his allies, conflicted, realizing any solution risked innocent lives anyway of who prevailed. The leader ended the meeting. Reina sensed Daisuke's unease and urged him to softly withdraw instead. The noble demanded answers, outraged by inaction. Daisuke faltered, wrestling with the burden of civilian casualties. Desperation overtook the noble. He pleaded intensely, insisting Daisuke enjoyed his view and must agree. Renia stood firm, asserting Daisuke's resolve came from deeper wisdom, not impulsive rage or shallow likeness. The noble's voice rose in frustration, accusing the village leader of using justice to justify tragic actions. Renia's presence descended, silencing the room, warning him not to compare shallow motives with deeper convictions. As the group departed, Renia's look shared quiet irritation, unnerved by the noble's emotional outburst and desperation. On the road, Nita asked her mother's judgment, uncertain whether the noble's plea held facts or manipulation. Renia challenged Daisuke's restraint, doubting if reason could ever reach those driven more by belief than logic. Daisuke asked Renia's reaction, unaware how greatly she drew a line amid him and the desperate noble. The group affirmed Daisuke's difference while he pondered his next move. Thoughts of red cap women lingered. With fierce courage, Daisuke proposed persuading others. Though the risk, Renia sensed sincerity in his daring gamble. Asked where he stood, Daisuke rejected easy labels, declaring instead his dream to protect those others abandoned. As their transport neared, a silent moment handed. Nita and the others realized he truly meant what he stated. Though the risk, Nita came after her mother into unknown conflict, determined to stand by Daisuke's cause. With calm confidence, Renia reassured her friend Daisuke wasn't reckless, he simply held a vision unlike others. Renia smiled knowingly, trusting Daisuke's pledge to unite both sides through means beyond brute force or fear. The combat erupted without caution. Chaos tore through the camp, cries of panic drowning out any reason. An enemy archer fired relentlessly, lost in fury, as living instincts overtook any reflection of retreat or peace. A red cap fighter lunged, but the defense line retaliated. Force met chaos in a clash of resolve. A sudden volley of bolts struck hard. The warrior's body failed before his fury could reach them. Bogans roared from the shadows, fierce and cold, as grief echoed in the cries of a child. Wounded and enraged, the red cap cursed humanity, powerless to stop the storm of bolts pinning him down. Victory was declared not by elite soldiers, but by desperate farmers wielding raw courage behind worn iron. Though underestimated as mere farmers, their raw power and numbers turned basic devices into a forceful defense. Surrounded and outmatched, the red cap women faced dangers of annihilation without they surrendered immediately and silently. Fearful yet obedient, the surviving women and children assembled under strict command, unknown of what awaited next. One wounded red cap girl rose to claim duty, answering the call as leader with trembling power. The threat grew darker. Anyone yet hidden would be hunted and executed if not surrendered without resistance. Tired and defeated, the red cap girl agreed there were no more hidden survivors left amid them. With silent dread, the soldiers prepared to fire, until a desperate voice shouted to halt the killing. The noble cried out, pleading for mercy, demanding they acknowledge the terrified faces of innocent girls and infants. When faced with slaughtered kin, his voice cracked. Revenge wouldn't bring healing, only more emptiness and ruin. He declared unity was the only escape from endless vengeance, urging both sides to rediscover shared humanity. The leader mocked the noble's plea, calling it naive to faith for peace in such ruins. The red cap girl affirmed her identity, worn but unbroken, while the man prepared to speak again. The leader exploded in fury, shouting his burdens aloud, rattling arms, and refusing to yield his authority. A shadowed figure emerged with calm certainty, cutting through chaos with a single order. Enough had been done. Their reactions stiffened in disbelief. Something had changed. This newcomer's voice carried burden none dared task or ignore. Daisuke stepped forward menacingly, halting the violence, offering a plan, demanding they hear him out initial. With no hesitation, Daisuke struck the noble down, stunning the red cap leader into breathless quiet. Gripping his opponent, Daisuke uttered words laced with facts, calling out his ignorance with quiet, cold authority. He whispered praise to the trembling red cap girl, then ordered silence, taking full control of everything. Her widened gaze reflected shock, fear, and something deeper, as Daisuke's unwavering courage shook her realm completely. Shadows gathered along the tree line, bows raised. The wind whispered before the first arrow silently struck. 30 minutes earlier, rupees soared down with urgency. Villagers had discovered a hidden encampment and were mobilizing. Daisuke weighed grim outcomes. Surrender meant living, but ideology and grief would push both sides toward bloodshed. Rupee gave to fly him there. Time was slipping. Every moment risked losing peaceful intervention fully. With no visit to lose, Daisuke climbed on. The team fired skyward, chasing fleeting faith below. Arachne legs tore through the terrain. Though terrain and burden, their force-matched beasts bred for war. Cliffside sprinting began. Daisuke clung to Rainier tightly, adrenaline surging as steep climbs replaced flat pace. Drenched in sweat, the red-cap maiden introduced herself as Reki with nervous authority. Daisuke gave protection on conditions. Her people's living now hinged on faith, restraint, and a difficult alliance. A shout cracked the air. Armed villagers rushed in, anger sharp, suspicion rising fast toward confrontation again. Daisuke stalled for visit, shielding Reki. Bolts itched behind drawn cords. Diplomacy balanced on a thread. Reki shouted, commanding submission. No revenge. No blood. Just living. Her voice wavered, but courage held firm. She swore loudly, heart racing, voice cracking. The others followed in trembling unity. Daisuke's gamble found footing. Daisuke turned next to the people. Calmly, he gave negotiation, protection traded for peace. Stakes stayed harsh, the chief wavered, vengeance flared, but so did living. Could justice be enough to restrain wrath? Calmly, Daisuke lit a cigarette. With a breath, he confessed the unthinkable. He wasn't from here. Gasps rose as he denied magic. Technology, he claimed, could guide futures far beyond their fears. Daisuke gave learning instead of arms, society in exchange for captives, secrets only another world could provide. He promised devices, plans, a new era, not items, but chance. Minds would make miracles, not mystics. To prove it, a command was given, machinery growled, blades spun. The forest trembled in awe. Daisuke gave devices, crops, and protection. With awe, he promised independence crafted by their own hands. The chief stood frozen, fear, disbelief, and wonder twisted together as Daisuke's vision shook their realm. With calm intensity, Daisuke warned the leader, learning was force, and power invited war if ignored. He leaned closer. This was not charity. It was exchange, opportunity traded for lives. That'd be lost. He raised one hand firm. The red-cap women were under his protection now. Final terms declared, quiet came after. Amazed faces stared at Daisuke, uncertain whether to fear, follow, or question him further. At last, the leader relented. The blades lowered. Daisuke's gamble paid off. Peace was accepted. Anguish simmered as Marcus wept. His loved ones gone, revenge felt hollow. Duty forced restraint forward. Daisuke waited quietly before them, 15 trembling red-cap women now under his guarded, unknown care. Reality settled in. The deal was made. Daisuke exhaled nervously. Well, that's it, he thought. Daisuke's plan had worked. Barely. Blood had rained. Fear had cracked faith. Now, guilt began whispering. Rain fell over the funeral pyre. Behind it, quiet. Daisuke's weariness now had room to breathe. His direct candor masked plan. He praised the other's flaws for making his own deal palatable. He told with steady conviction, the other held saved them too. Facts sometimes arrive through contradiction. In Ruklan's village, strain returned. Missa stared, shocked by his boldness and the lives he brought. Reki bowed low, requesting temporary shelter and tools. She promised labor, not sympathy. From her people. The clan elders accepted with grace. In Go Back, they requested only peace and enjoyed duty. As formal introductions began, Riki voiced her aims. Neku welcomed her, open to building alliance. Under the evening sky, red caps settled into borrowed tents, grateful, uncertain, and softly rebuilding from ruin. Inside, Daisuke arrived humbly. Reki apologized for the shelter's simplicity, but her swift movement shocked him. Reki, stunned by gratitude and desperation, humbly requested Daisuke to hear one final private request. She gave herself fully, believing it her role as a spiritual leader to bear the burden. Speaking from sorrow and duty, Reki expressed deep humiliation but resolved to protect her people's legacy. Daisuke responded gently, assuring her she wasn't quietly, and vowed to carry her faith with purpose. In uneasy quiet, he promised to learn further about her. Not just her role, but her power. Reki's weak balance forced her to crouch low, conserving power as she endured bodily strain. Daisuke noticed her trembling style, realizing her species sacrificed stability for agility, making upright support nearly unworkable. He gently assisted her posture, letting her rest in his grasp while her breathing slowly began to settle. Afterward, as they traveled uphill, she said her legs could sprint like beasts, yet tire frighteningly fast. Though her top pace, Reki confessed long runs were unsustainable. Endurance, not velocity, determined real realm living efficiency. Reki said how they fired projectiles with sheer momentum, combining pace, devices, and exact bodily control. Daisuke asked their loss in combat. Reki paused, then confessed their vision struggled badly in daylight. She shared their tribe once used unlikely masks against sunlight, most now lost during a ruinous village war. Moved by her burden, Daisuke pondered crafting tinted gear while Reki bowed, apologizing for their imposed beliefs. Daisuke asked the spirit role's burden. Reki gently reminded him of the reverence their people placed. Reki solemnly warned Daisuke that leadership meant absolute obedience, and unbearable weight shouldered by a single voice. Though she told gently, Reki shared her people's desperate faith rested fully on Daisuke's silent acceptance. In an act of loyalty, she gave herself as symbol and vessel of the clan's loyalty. Daisuke grasped the gravity of his words, knowing blind faith could spark bloodshed under sacred interpretation. Reki's sacred title bore several burdens: birth, healing, death, all bound to ritual and reverence beyond new reason. Reki's living after ritual bond agreed Daisuke's sacred role, shaking tradition and shifting the tribe's future. She was prepared to sacrifice her belief to preserve the clan, entrusting him with its spirit. Though sacred titles, Reki applied religion strategically, shaping doctrine to preserve order, never fully believing in its myths. Reki dreaded zealotry infecting her people. She preferred logic, even if it meant eliminating risky, misguided outsiders. With Misei's help, Daisuke gifted her basic goggles, eventually letting Reki see beneath harsh daylight. Daisuke's invention started faith. Adaptive cloth lenses could help redcaps function even under harsh sunlight. Struggling to recall glassmaking, Daisuke brainstormed alternatives as Misei said its scarcity and absurd cost. Daisuke realized transparent cellulose paper could mimic glass, strong, flexible, and fully plant-based with no unlikely materials. He envisioned sustainable methods using mills and dyes, developing sunlight-resistant paper lenses and even lightweight window sheets. Misa casually mentioned the chief's plans to reward Daisuke with custom armor and a new house. Daisuke became amazed when Misa said they'd built him a house, complete with armor and supplies. Excited yet stunned, Daisuke hid his thoughts, his mind even now racing with plans for his dream home. Frustrated by basic standards, he vowed to create comfort, though lacking electricity, liquid, and new engineering devices, after sleepless nights and countless revisions. Daisuke eventually held the blueprint that embodied his silent goal. His house build, effective and eco-friendly, promised warmth and peace. His first true legacy in this realm. Daisuke proudly said the progress. Rainia watched silently, her gaze unreadable beneath her long bangs. Rainia pulled him close in excitement, praising the house. He froze, unsure how to respond properly. With Nita away, Rainia teased him firmly. Daisuke's thoughts scrambled amid logic, emotion, and rising anticipation. She leaned in, her voice soft. The strain turned, something silent now hovered. Amid heartbeats and breath, letter quiet filled the room. The evening handed in warmth, far from new life's empty noise. While energy rose around them, Daisuke softly said how basic forces could drive complex daily utilities, bathed in low light. Rainia heard intently. Her mind weighed invention against quiet human need. Misa discovered the blueprints unexpectedly. Her blush rose instantly. Some diagrams were far more detailed than expected. Despite confusion, Rainia agreed to try. Engineering logic gave Daisuke's head, pushing awkwardness to the background. Their conversation was cut short by a loud crash. Someone had tested something far too enthusiastically. Misa shouted in panic, asked Nita. She froze, sensing something unnatural disturbing the woods. Behind the fence, a dark guide writhed violently. The barrier shook as squirming shadows grew restless. With a thunderous crack, wood split apart, revealing a scaled beast forcing its way through the gate. Misei's gaze widened, breath halted. Her voice trembled as she gasped. "Ah, a dragon pup!" The dragon pup forced itself through the wooden barricade. Rania and others stood frozen in fear. Misa agreed it became a fire dragon pup. Daisuke realized the risk had just escalated. They debated the pup's origin. If abandoned, it was rare. If not, its parents might soon arrive. Sensing risk, Misa shouted a caution. The dragon's body stiffened, its core glowing with force. With a blinding flash, the pup released fire. The walls and air trembled from raw heat. The blazing burst amazed everyone. Through the flames, the dragon pup waited alive, radiating heat and instinct. Daisuke, wide-eyed, agreed the obvious. The dragon held firepower. Sparks amid its fangs caused combustion instantly. He theorized aloud, methane, fats, sparks, declaring the dragon an inborn flamethrower, biologically engineered by nature's own laws. Lost in thought, Daisuke marveled at its evolution. But Misa yelled. It was destroying the fence. Too late. With one burning charge, the pup shattered the barrier. The tribe's defenses crumbled instantly. The dragon pup sat calmly in the clearing, its earlier fire spent. Steam drifted from its mouth. It glanced around, observing the nervous villagers. Its tail wagged slightly, unknown if it should approach them. Daisuke noticed its behavior, gentle, almost submissive. He stepped forward slowly, testing if it would respond peacefully. With exaggerated flair, Daisuke invoked a odd persona, channeling confidence through pure absurdity to connect with it. He extended his hand gently. The others held their breath. The pup leaned forward, curious and cautious. The dragon nuzzled into Daisuke's arms, tail wagging. The villagers seemed on, amazed by the beast's gentleness. Without caution, the dragon playfully bit Daisuke's head. He smiled through the pain while the others stiffened silent. Rainia screamed in panic, assuming the worst. Daisuke stayed strangely calm under the beast's grip. Thankfully, it was only nibbling. Daisuke comforted the dragon as Rainia clung to him in ease. While recovering, Mise asked what arrived next. Keeping it meant risk. Parents might see this as a threat. The group debated keeping the pup nearby. Its power was undeniable, yet faith still felt unknown. They discussed dragon tactics: intelligent, harsh, adaptive. Poison traps might work, but not before grave losses occurred. Rainia recalled witnessing a real fire breather. Unlike to adults, this pup became merely a flickering candle. Memories returned. In youth, Rainia and Miss escaped a dragon attack. The aftermath was unforgettable trauma. Rupi shared surprising insight. The dragon had no parents. It neared seeking warmth, not conflict or chaos. The villagers curiously watched as Nika suggested Puppy, naming the man who'd arrived their lives. As the ritual commenced, the locals surrounded him, offering themselves with fervent loyalty and clouded aims. Their earlier hesitation eased, replaced by belief, accepting Puppy as spirit, surrendering tradition, body, and judgment fully to him. A priestess proclaimed Puppy sacred, anointed by prophecy. Rituals came after, merging faith and flesh with solemn trembling reverence. Holding her child, one asked fearfully, could this human spirit truly belong, or was it illusion? The woman got the child solemnly. A mysterious voice guided her heart, urging acceptance without judgment or fear. Her loyalty was absolute. The others watched, sensing her deep commitment, even in moments of uncertainty. Stunned by emotion, she cradled the child, trembling as loyalty overpowered hesitation, fear, and private identity. More followed her lead, offering themselves to serve. Their faces showed faith, absolute and greatly internalized faith. Their bodies bowed, but strain gave the air. What began as reverence now teetered towards something heavier. Stunned by emotion, the girls expressed deep gratitude, their words considered loyalty, reverence, and a longing for purpose. As breath slowed and silence fell, a spiritual presence seemed to stir within the crowded, dim chamber. Reisei and Hibari stepped forward, formally introducing themselves. Their voice held respect, but strain lingered in their request. They bowed with sincerity, declaring their loyalty. To them, Daisuke's presence felt like divine guidance, not mere chance. In close proximity, they asked his nature. Was he truly a spirit, or just a gifted man? Daisuke's mind froze. Whatever confidence he held before shattered completely under the burden of sudden force. He tried staying calm, but his mind raced. The girls were watching. He required to act fast. His quiet deepened. Words fled him. The moment demanded a lie, but candor gnawed at his core. Raiden Hibari stared sharply, silently pleading for reassurance. His breath caught. Judgment loomed with every second. He smiled, strained and hollow. No plan, no excuse, no answer. Just a desperate mask and fading faith. Reisei and Hibari stared in quiet, gaze tense with doubt, waiting for Daisuke to speak. Honestly, Daisuke held them closely, debating his options. Facts felt risky, yet lies might cost everything. He delayed with the unclear question, but the girls promised quiet, no action, no betrayal, just waiting. Pressed for answers, they insisted on facts. Daisuke stalled, unsure why it mattered so deeply. Rei shared the past. Akabo's blind faith led to ruin, and now they feared falsehood again. Hibari told firmly, no more stories or rituals, they deserved facts, not another tale of sacred roles. Daisuke finally answered. His tone sharpened. If they wanted facts, they held to hear everything plainly. Even warned of consequence, both girls answered yes. Their gaze didn't waver though, the looming burden, before truth came. The shrine maiden intervened. Reki's presence shattered the tension, invoking fear and shame. Reki admitted their loyalty. Though trembling, Reki and Hibari waited firm, relieved to be spared punishment. Reki presented two paths: obedience without thought, or wisdom earned through hardship and eventual leadership. Without hesitation, Raiti and Hibari declared their choice. They would lead, but they demanded full facts. With Dana's permission granted, the maiden agreed to share everything. Faith would now come with candor. Given their oath, Daisuke encouraged them. The girls promised to lead with power, loyalty, and plain minds. As the sun rose over Sashioi village, Daisuke turned forward, burdened by duty once more. Daisuke arrived at the settlement. Whispers spread fast. The title, Harem King, followed him everywhere now. He introduced Puppy, a dragon friend. The villagers stared, uneasy but trusting his calm, casual demeanor. Though concerns about food and risk, Daisuke assured everyone. He turned focus back to practical planning. A new engine demonstration began. The crowd gasped as liquid-driven mechanics spun a wooden structure rapidly. Daisuke presented his washing engine build. The village women erupted in awe, created by the invention. Daisuke said that even complex machines relied on basic motions, repetition, and pace built all technology. The villagers watched his invention spin. He showed how these basic parts created something fully useful. He introduced solar heating. With clean liquid, they could prevent disease and stop sickness before it spread. By converting stored energy into motion or heat, even children could operate systems that changed society. He urged them to imagine more. With discipline and labor, their devices could surpass even his teachings. Daisuke requested the leader to feel it. The untapped energy, the raw chance flowing through nature. Amazed, the leader admitted it. Doubt eased as realization dawned. The realm around him could be reshaped. With newfound clarity, he named it magic. Daisuke knew it became science, centuries compressed into knowing. Bound by odd contract, Daisuke enjoyed learning freely, uncertain whether it would save or destroy. As he wandered near the stream, a shadow handed beneath. Something or someone was silently watching Daisuke. A loud splash shocked Daisuke, but it turned out to be Mei surfacing from the liquid. Mei emerged cheerfully from the river, asking Daisuke if he had time for a conversation. Daisuke feared at the sight, amazed to meet a mermaid for the very initial visit. He examined her body with fascination, while others awkwardly labeled him the Harem King yet once more. Firmly introducing himself, Daisuke announced his dream to become the legendary beast girl Harem King. Mei paused at Daisuke's bold claim. Her reaction was mixed, confused, polite, and slightly awkward. Mei gave coral and pearls in trade, but the village's food shortage formed exchange difficult. Daisuke studied Mei's physiology. Her legs resembled aquatic adaptations, yet she retained limited land mobility. Intrigued, Daisuke asked Mei plainly. Her posture straightened as the group waited for her response. She said her breath control. Not true gills, just strong lungs. A balance amid land and liquid. Daisuke said, mermaids likely evolved lungs from air bladders, much like whales that never regained gills. He theorized Mei's tail stored blood and oxygen, allowing prolonged submersion, rivaling penguins and whales in breath. Holding Daisuke gave a scientific deal. Mei scantly rejected his bold request with a cold, doubtful glare. Flustered, he pleaded. Mei responded with force, reminding him that tail or not, she wasn't defenseless. She denied his request again. Even his backup plea to examine someone else was shut down coldly. As Daisuke reflected on rejection, the crowd chimed in, some mocking, some curious, others simply amused. Mei paused, then gave a term. Her voice changed. Something serious and risky became about to follow. She proposed a deal, defeat the kraken plaguing their waters, and she'd agree to his study. The word kraken froze Daisuke. Shock and dread struck instantly as he realized what he'd just agreed to. Mei confronted Daisuke angrily, frustrated that his fixation with monsters overshadowed her bold private act. He marveled at her description of the kraken, a massive beast dwarfing any known sea life. Mei's voice trembled. Even merfolk armies failed against it, and its attack patterns remained methodical, intense, horrid. Daisuke proposed devices and tactics, but Mei said their futility. Proximity quietly meant some disaster and loss. She described its rise from deep waters, devouring boats and beasts alike, cold, silent, and monstrously effective. Ivrione froze as Mei finished her grim warning. Even the seasoned stood silent in sheer disbelief. Daisuke grasped the kraken's habits, its camouflage, its diet, its intellect, each fact painting a picture of horror. Though the facts, he clenched his fist and formed a bold declaration with unwavering, reckless confidence. Mei's look shattered, shocked and feared, unable to believe he'd just volunteered to face that abyssal terror. One week later, the coast stood quiet, untouched, the sea waiting, hiding whatever came or didn't. The team arrived at the coastal village, greeted by salt air, intrigued stares, and fish-like residents. For some, it was their first glimpse of the sea. Awe and sarcasm danced among companions. Emerging from the waters, Oji-san, leader of the clan, greeted Daisuke with firm being there and interest. Daisuke introduced himself with bold candor, earning laughs, a handshake, and a caution about the leader's daughter. Oji-san showed their strongest rope formed from raw arachne string, the very tool for the mission ahead. Oji-san strained with unshakable force, but the rope held, proving its worth as further than basic fiber. He said its force. Thread spun harder than steel, trusted even by arachne warriors in lethal battle. Hope sparked in the group. If even the Kraken could be restrained, they now had a chance. That evening, Daisuke neared the royal guard softly, unaware a deeper mission now stirred under moonlight. That evening, under quiet moonlight, Daisuke became neared with urgency. A plea whispered. The princess was in risk. Saba said Iruka's deal. Princess Kana gave herself to secure food, against Oji-san's far stronger judgment. Though her noble purpose, Kana's decision would place her in vile hands, defying her people's respect. Fishing zones were deadly war fronts. Monsters ruled the sea, and villages risked ruin for scarce prey. The Kraken controlled the only open waters. Challenging it was the only way to avoid war. Saba pleaded not just to slay the beast, but to free Kana from political sacrifice. Saba apologized for his feelings, hoping Daisuke, an outsider and chance hero, could speak for the powerless. Pressed about his bond with the princess, Saba confessed their closeness, yet kept emotions closely hidden. He confessed helplessness, requesting Daisuke's help again, while realizing villages actually meant a sovereign oceanic micronation. Daisuke considered he'd misjudged their roles fully. These villages were actually vital independent states with global strain. Unknown to them all, Hidden Gaze watched silently from beneath the surface, aims unreadable beneath dark waters. Princess Kana sat softly, cloaked and thoughtful, as Mei delivered tea, trying to lift her spirits. Mei told hopefully, but Kana reminded her, Iruka's influence grew, and politics rarely allowed private freedom. Though her calm, Kana's look held something deeper, a quiet storm of uncertainty behind her quiet gaze. Together, they watched the ocean, steam rising from the cup, two figures waiting, knowing change was approaching. Kana whispered her acceptance, but far offshore, Iruka's warship neared, signaling a deadline none could avoid. A ship anchored in shadow as Kana endured unwanted closeness under powerful and invasive control. Surrounded and confined, the girls bore the burden of authority while the observer watched in grotesque pleasure. Kana's name were whispered with reverence, as forced affection blurred with forced obedience behind closed doors. A hesitant plea broke the quiet, seeking security for family, met solely with shallow promises and force. Iruka assured wealth and safety in exchange for loyalty, cutting Kana's worth to reproduction and obedience. Minnows and broad boats prepared softly in the harbor, certain built for pace, others to carry war. In the darkness, unseen forces continued exploiting the powerless, while schemes and commands handed amid veiled actors. Orders were relayed amid hushed breaths. The alliance with Arachne to defeat the Kraken was noted. Iruka sat surrounded, his influence absolute, those under him reduced to roles far beneath their dignity. The next day, sails rose with purpose, and whole fleet now moving toward an unknown charged confrontation. With steady breath, Daisuke agreed his courage. His allies asked nothing, sensing his certainty on the waves. Rising above the fleet, Daisuke roared a task to future, every spear lifted with thunderous determination. Elsewhere, Iruka's soldiers marched in armor, loyal and silent as their master ordered a harsh pursuit.
Mei dived swiftly, sensing motion ahead. Shadows loomed near the surface. She adjusted her path closely. Sonar pulses echoed through the water. Mei heard intently, narrowing her gaze at the distortion approaching fast. Daisuke spotted unfamiliar figures beyond patrol range. Beneath them, something massive stirred beneath the merfolk's swift escort. Oji-san communicated silently through pulses. Mei felt the altar. Something responded from the dark, deep and deliberate. Alarms were raised. A camouflaged threat, Kraken-shaped, was awakening. Meisei surfaced, strain rising before the inevitable confrontation ahead. The currents turned violently. Mei froze. Something massive rose upward, aiming plainly for the central fleet. Daisuke and Oji-san tracked the beast's ascent. Mei named out distances. The surface churned with dread. Oji-san's command echoed. Daisuke turned sharply. There was no doubt. This wasn't a drill, it was hunting. Below, ships diverted course. Trails swirled like ink. Units scattered as sonar agreed unnatural acceleration from beneath. Daisuke's gaze widened. The beast rose by venting internal gas, accelerating with horrid accuracy through liquid force. Daisuke studied the beast's nature, its feeding method hyper-effective, growth unchecked. It evolved faster than anticipated. Mei's voice cracked with urgency. Oji-san and Daisuke issued orders. The fleet braced for impact. From the depths, monstrous legs erupted. Wooden masts snapped. The vanguard had no chance to react. A single eye breached the surface. The beast towered upward, crushing hulls like paper with ease. Creaking wood and rising foam surrounded the retreat. Merfolk scattered. Oji-san's cry pierced chaos. The kraken thrashed violently, but the hook held. Mei's squad had finally landed a decisive blow. Oji-san's voice rang out. The poison spear units rose forward, flanking it from all directions swiftly. Barrels pierced liquid with lethal accuracy. The floating trap struck beyond the beast's reach, sinking toxins deep. Daisuke's gaze lit up. The arachne rope held firm. Their trap was working exactly as planned, but victory wasn't some. The kraken twisted in pain, lashing wildly. The ocean turned into chaos. Daisuke's breath caught. His instinct screamed. Something was wrong. This was no mindless beast. It was calculating. The kraken erupted upward, spewing waves. Each tentacle reacted independently, intercepting dangers with horrid, harsh accuracy. Mei shouted through chaos. Shockwaves struck command boats. Injured troops were pulled back amid rolling tremors. Its eye locked on them. Daisuke realized too late. It grasped their tactics and could counter them. Straining against the rope, the kraken began dragging them closer. It wasn't panicking. It became adjusting plan. Orders echoed across the fleet. All units synchronized. The final plan dragged the kraken ashore together. 1,000 mermen and 6 ships strained. The rope stretched. The shore drew near, inch by inch. Just in case poison failed, Daisuke devised a harsh fallback. Let gravity finish the beast's resistance. The kraken flailed wildly. All spearboats were lost. Its legs coiled close, too risky for pursuit. Suddenly, it stopped. Legs limp, body silent. Confusion spread. Had it collapsed? Or was something wrong? Saba charged in alone, barrel in hand. With fierce courage, she struck the beast's core. Despite the risk, her aim was true. The poison pierced deep. The troops watched, amazed. The fleet erupted in cheers. Saba hoped Kana saw that. She stood victorious atop the beast's form. Daisuke cheered, breathless. His admiration rose, yet panic followed. A deeper tremor rose beneath the crashing surf. Massive shadows rose. New foes arrived, Iruka's elite. Confusion swept the ranks. The tide had not turned yet. Lord Iruka emerged. Urgency plain, massive forms stirred beneath the sea's veil. More kraken loomed in the depths. Their silent rise turned victory into desperate, ordered retreat. Daisuke trembled. Their mission had succeeded, but barely. The ocean now felt like a watching eye. Far away, a girl stared. She curious about Daisuke. Legends were already taking root. The combat ended. Odd aquatic figures emerged, looming from deep waters. Their being there agreed the kraken's fall. The villagers erupted in cheers, yet Daisuke waited distant, sensing something unresolved, though the apparent victory. Iruka said his silent support, watching nearby. His caution hinted deeper dangers stirred by the kraken's death. Mei greeted Daisuke warmly. Her cheer masked past strain. A pledge once formed still lingered amid them. Her words struck him. Gratitude, sincerity, and surprise. Misjudgment melted. Something weak but honest began growing anew. Mei, flustered and red-faced, firmly refused Daisuke's request, offering to find a person else instead. Cheerfully dancing away, Mei promised help. Daisuke pondered how rare kindness like hers truly was. Just as she relaxed, Princess Kana arrived, questioning their arrangement with a gaze keen and unreadable. Crowds celebrated noisily. Daisuke, cornered by voices and hopes, struggled to explain the growing misunderstandings. Misreading special for consent, Kana pushed Mei forward. Daisuke, stunned, insisted on stopping things peacefully. Kana leaned in, voice soft but pointed. Mei flushed greatly, stunned by her sudden, composed being there. Kana gently gave herself as a candidate. Daisuke paused, uncertain if this was admiration or plan. Kana clarified her emotions for Iruka, fond, respectful, but lacking true affection. She glanced toward Daisuke thoughtfully. A sudden gathering loomed in quiet. Mei and others stood stunned. unsure what had just begun. Kana defended Iruka's strengths calmly, acknowledging flaws while weighing his worth beyond appearances and social discomforts. The moment was recalled aloud, her trembling, his action. Questions rose as quiet clung to Mei's breath. Thou always poised, Kana confessed, her nerves. Even she became not immune to force or weak moments. To Iruka, Kana confessed. His acceptance meant everything. Unlike others, he accepted even her harshest, hidden parts. Staring into dusk, Kana offered her quiet farewell, her life chosen, her path turning toward another man. Iruka smiled, not with heartbreak, but pride. Her growth was his reward, his love purely paternal. Iruka gently gave lasting support, promising to care for her life, even if from afar. Daisuke struggled to grasp his role, confused by the unexpected path of feelings and shifting truths. Voices rose around Kana. Saba begged her to choose freely, not as a princess, but herself. Kana replied with calm certainty. Her voice firm, she showed she knew exactly who she was. Saba's memories about Kana surfaced. Her look eased to stillness, knowing choices held shape the current path. Confronted by confusion, Kana waited silent. Her warmth hadn't vanished, it had simply turned inward, cautious. Daisuke stepped forward, defending her. To him, she wasn't cold, just stronger. Burdened by duty, her silence was not distance but resolve. Sacrificing comfort, she prioritized her people before private desires. Tears welled gently. The pain became real, but she grasped herself, and others began to understand too. Kana joined Daisuke, humbly and willingly, not out of force but from conviction and the freedom to choose. Kana confessed her certainty, he came from another world, and she wanted everything he could offer. Daisuke, though caught off guard, began explaining methods that could shift their realm beneath the waves. Kana trembled, stunned, not by romance, but by Daisuke's words. Visions of possibility stirred something profound within. She led him solemnly through water-lit caverns, honoring Mei's promise with a tradition older than memory. Quietly and ceremonial, Kana prepared herself softly, an heirloom ritual cloaked in reverence, not demand nor shame. Daisuke initiated his research calmly. Kana responded with quiet faith, though the air grew undeniably tense. He focused on bodily traits and movement, documenting changes in merfolk with professional detachment and accuracy. Though composed, Kana showed signs of emotional conflict. This became not mere study, but something far deeper. In quiet, they rested. A ceremonial bond completed, echoing with blended ease, reflection, and new knowing. Wrapped in moonlight, Kana confessed unease. Daisuke reassured her gently, unsure what they had truly become. A distant echo shattered the calm. Kana clutched Daisuke, alarmed. Explosions sounded beyond the ceremonial walls. A soldier arrived, breathless, blade drawn. The enemy neared. Daisuke steadied himself, instincts tightening without hesitation. From the shadows rose monstrous figures, grotesque and silent. Kana's voice trembled. The deep ones, hold, come. Daisuke stands guard as mysterious armed fishmen approach. Kana lies vulnerable behind him, breathing uneasy quiet. The fishmen move intelligently, wielding arms. Daisuke's disbelief turns to dread, communication fails, risk escalates with strain. Lone fishman lunges. Daisuke dodges and counters, but he's outnumbered and cornered. Kana retreats behind stone support. Their opponent chooses plan over rage. Cautious steps, deliberate jabs. Daisuke finds a slim opening to retaliate. Kana panics as a spear closes in. Daisuke rushes. Visit slows. He must act before it is over. The deep one struck with accuracy, slashing at joints and legs. Staying just nearby Daisuke's arm range, Kana screamed helplessly as Daisuke staggered, wounded. The beast waited, poised to finish him with ruthless accuracy. Driven by panic, Daisuke fired himself forward. The attack landed. A spark of resistance pierced the pace. Shocked by the sudden hit, the deep one reeled back. Daisuke pressed forward, refusing to back down. In a flash, Daisuke's hand snatched the spear mid-swing. The fishman's eye widened in disbelief and fear. Gripped by desperation and rage, Daisuke lunged forward, closing the gap with horrid, unrelenting force and courage. The strike tore through the deep one's defenses. Its body spasmed. Daisuke attacked with intense, controlled brutality. Using a hidden arm, Daisuke exploited the beast's aquatic instincts. It couldn't predict a mid-air counterstrike. Kana watched breathless as Daisuke drove the spear down. The enemy finally collapsed, motionless and broken. Pair of more modern, but Daisuke turned with wild defiance, set to fight. No hesitation stayed in him. Daisuke realized the fishmen trembled not from plan but fear. Their confidence shattered under his violent resistance. He struck the fallen enemy again, not out of cruelty, only to silence the lingering threat completely. With wild defiance, Daisuke roared at the others. His madness now scared them more than pain. They fled into the water. The cave fell silent. Daisuke's arm lowered, his rage beginning to fade. He helped Kana up gently. She nodded, shaken. Together, they turned toward distant echoes in the dark. Daisuke gently lifted Kana with care. Her tail's burden shocked him. She became heavier than expected. Kana asked the overkill. Daisuke calmly said living demanded certainty. Creatures don't always die cleanly or fast. He confessed the facts. This fight was his first real combat too. They were both inexperienced survivors. Real combat, unlike training, gave no fairness. Any weakness, mental or bodily, became exploited without caution or mercy. Despite limited skill, Daisuke had grown ruthless through need. Kana softly admired his will to endure. Though lacking power, Daisuke's determination became undeniable. Kana watched softly. He waited like a seasoned warrior even now. Suddenly, reinforcements emerged from the dark waters. Daisuke realized too late. They hadn't retreated. They'd named for backup. Rainier loomed above them. Shadows stretched wide. Keen legs framed a silhouette not readily mistaken. Water exploded upward. Rainier descended with lethal grace. Daisuke froze, shielding Kana with his body. Kana gasped as Rainier's legs pierced the tide, scattering fishmen like insects in retreat. Daisuke watched in awe. Her being there showed lethal purpose, like a blade meant for war. Nia rushed over, voice trembling. Concerned for Daisuke, she checked him from head to toe. Reinforcements had arrived. Missa rose through enemies like nature's fury, lethal, swift, and utterly unrelenting in combat. Above them, Rupi scanned from the skies. Her caution pierced the wind. Further enemies yet hid. As troops rallied and Kana reunited with family, Daisuke realized they'd finally turned the battle in full. Iruka said the Deep One's worship of the Kraken, creatures from ocean depths, now vengeful and rising. Rupi landed clumsily on Daisuke. The group teased him while inspecting fallen foes for new learning. They debated source, fish or man. Daisuke insisted they weren't human kin. Evolution took different paths underwater. Fishmen resembled humans by coincidence. Daisuke unlike them to lesser demons, non-ape humanoids born of separate roots. A centaur warrior charged into view, bow drawn mid-leap. Reinforcements had arrived. The land yet burned. With exact aim, the centaur's arrow struck cleanly across the lake. Distant enemies fell in awe, returning from patrol. She calmly delivered intel and resources. Her voice was polite, but plainly command-skilled. She stepped forward formally, asking for Daisuke's attention. Blushing slightly, she addressed him plainly. Harem King, Daisuke feared. His mind short-circuited, a real centaur. Before him, speaking to him felt real.
Daisuke froze, stunned by the armored centaur's towering form. Her being there disrupted logic and started bodily interest. His probing questions fast crossed a line. She raised a huff in caution, strained thick amid them. She introduced herself calmly as Tora, a centaur traveler. She'd come, drawn by tales of Daisuke's exploits. With mild embarrassment, Daisuke confessed his ambitions. Tora heard, her voice shifting toward purpose as the conversation deepened. She proposed a pact, rescue her people from monsters, and she'd repay him with loyalty and companionship. Though her people faced threat, Tora agreed there was visit just about a month before risk became urgent. Tora said the enemy, minotaurs with human-like upper power and minds capable of complex underground structures. Minotaurs avoided conflict without provoked, but retaliation was absolute, calculated, and harsh, responding just as to inflicted losses. Their growing numbers endangered pastures. Without knowing limits, they'd seek vengeance on many if 10 were lost. That night Tora and others bathed together. Amid laughter, a odd texture in the liquid raised concern. Tora laughed, realizing how obvious the solution was. The group's mood lightened after moments of strain. Daisuke proposed using other hunters to disrupt the minotaurs, avoiding retaliation by never striking them plainly themselves. The women considered his plan. If executed with swift beasts, it might actually balance the battlefield, though faster. Tara dreaded long-term vengeance, ambushes, tunnels, and civilian losses, haunted any dreams of plain conflict. Kana paused but consented. If it was for science only, she'd allow Daisuke a medical study. Shocked and exposed, Tora reflexively kicked Daisuke across the springs, sending him flying with surprising power. Before she could recover, A dark silhouette rose from the liquid, dragging her into a sudden whirl. The figure emerged, non-human, eerie. Panic spread as it pinned Daisuke, shocking the onlookers into amazed quiet. It was Rainier. Tora defended herself, trembling. She hadn't known Daisuke was behind her at that moment. Her fury boiled over, but Daisuke, dazed and bruised, begged her to spare Tora from blame. To calm tensions, Daisuke defended social misunderstandings, but Rainier's defensive stance solely heightened everyone's enjoyed awkwardness. Rainier stepped in, acknowledging Daisuke's reasoning. She warned Tora gently against missteps that could escalate future problems. Later that evening, a festive celebration began. Daisuke became softly neared about earlier events during Kana's wedding. Discussion turned toward gender roles. Daisuke learned Arachne society, while strict, was challenging for both sexes. Tora voiced preference for tradition, romantic submission to power, though others discovered both extremes just as troubling in their own way. Cultural tension rose again. Tora said centaur customs, equating wives to servants honoring a husband's command. She showed with roleplay, treating the merfolk to an exaggerated reenactment of traditional centaur spousal behavior. Her performance intensified dramatically. The crowd gasped as she pushed boundaries amid social satire and unsettling loyalty. Tora insisted no one force them. Centaur women simply adapted to make men's lives more pleasant. With confident pride, she said how such loyalty earned lasting affection. Interest swelled as others assembled close. A merfolk asked the open discussion. Surprisingly, even the men admitted their roles without objection. Tora clarified her stance. Centaur culture distrusts human ideals, especially when cloaked in lofty talk like justice. The mood turned, though not hostile. Tora confessed their culture saw people as flawed and self-absorbed. Tora posed a task to Daisuke, speak instinctively. She had one question about humanity's true nature. With sincerity, she asked where humans ranked, gods or beasts. Her voice balanced interest and care. Daisuke answered bluntly, beasts. Tora was impressed. Few humans admitted their primal roots without resistance or pride. She elaborated on the human term, a disorder caused by self-deluding beliefs disconnected from tangible reality. Centaurs viewed excessive self-importance and misplaced spiritualism as mental distortions caused by overthinking one's identity and purpose. Daisuke reflected, demi-people weren't naive. They simply avoided human pitfalls while yet building complex organized cultures and norms. Unlike people, demi-humans rejected moral absolutes born from cruelty. Their societies evolved by bypassing humanity's harmful ideals. As the feast wrapped up, conversation drifted to engineering projects while the moonlit bathhouse quieted down. Daisuke asked again about a biology exam. Tora, flustered, said social boundaries regarding male observation. She paused. Though laws existed, one obscure method might technically permit an exception under special, ritualistic terms. With a flourish, Tora jokingly referenced an archaic centaur custom, direct, violent, and plainly not planned literally by her. She playfully exaggerated the task, daring Daisuke in jest, her blade gleaming as strain rose dramatically amid them. Daisuke stiffened in amazed quiet, then erupted in panic, utterly stunned by Tora's provocative social declaration. Under the moonlight, Tora loomed imposingly. Daisuke stiffened, stunned by her direct demands and fierce intensity. Confused by her culture, Daisuke struggled to grasp their norms. Tora clarified. Forcefulness was tied to commitment. The village girls said mating customs casually. Their culture missed restraint, framing closeness as a basic duty. Rainier intervened calmly, cautioned Tora not to harm Daisuke. Tora accepted, amused, and prepared for confrontation. Strain eased as motivations remained said. Power earned respect here, but laws still bound those with force. Daisuke wrestled with temptation. Scientific curiosity clashed with moral hesitation as the night deepened around him. He proposed Tora wear local attire, sparking confusion. Modesty clashed with social norms in the merfolk village. With gleaming gaze, Daisuke urged her onward. She paused, unsettled by his sudden persuasive determination. Tora sensed his intent and grew self-conscious. Interest stirred, but embarrassment burned stronger than fascination. By morning, the girls appeared, dressed firmly. Daisuke's plan succeeded, glowed with conflicted pride. Daisuke praised their appearance. Rainier and Kana said their outfits, light, smooth, and crafted from oceanic materials. Thou uneasy fits and social contrasts they adjusted. Daisuke nervously observed, unsure whether to comment further. Tora marched forward, smiling stiffly. She repeated to herself that blending in was perfectly normal behavior.
Though exposed, Tora felt exhilarated. Daisuke complimented her, easing her doubts with casual words and gentle humor. They reflected on clothing norms. What once felt shameful now appeared inborn comfort shaped by perspective and community. Tora reluctantly agreed, disguising her consent as a joke. Daisuke cheered, eager to begin his research. With genuine interest, Daisuke noticed her centaur physiology. He noted unique limb functions and impressive muscular balance. As he moved closer, anatomical interest crossed a boundary. Tora reacted sharply, flustered by his proximity. Though unsettled by his bluntness, she recognized Daisuke's focus. He studied her like a rare creature. She said her nature plainly, function and style divided by purpose. Daisuke heard, amazed by the social contrast. Tora said her culture's hospitality, offering women to guests, even for closeness, became a respectful act. While her words lingered, something splashed across the liquid, an interlude as strain subtly turned and settled. Tora elaborated on bodily customs. Trial closeness distinguished from serious unions, even body considered social divisions and purpose. Tora laughed off implications. Daisuke, amazed by her bluntness, struggled to keep the conversation academically grounded. Curious and confused, Daisuke pressed on. What did father mean in a culture allowing such permissions? Tora describes centaur education. From birth, children observe adults closely, mimicking behaviors under parental guidance and normalization. She clarified taboos yet existed. Some acts remained discouraged but not punished, merely treated as undesirable outcomes. Suddenly, the liquid stirred. A mysterious guide surfaced near the group, drawing everyone's attention toward the shore. A slick, otherworldly beast emerged. Its legs turned unnaturally, half fish, half horse, both graceful and unsettling in its silent approach. They recognized it as a kelpie, risky, carnivorous, and unpredictable. It lunged forward, startling Tora without caution. The kelpie suddenly clung to Tora, triggering surprise and alarm. Affection or instinct. No one knew. With a swift kick, Tora broke free. Her gaze hardened. This wasn't interest anymore, but fury. Infuriated, she chased the beast into the compound. Her voice cracked with rage and embarrassment. Tora fired a fierce rapid fire. Her anger became accuracy, each arrow punishing the beast's earlier intrusion. Daisuke casually warned her not to damage the kelpie too much. They were planning to eat it. The kelpie's nature became said, fast, amphibious, and surprisingly edible. Its meat resembled chewy, raw sea mammal. Night fell. The chaos of the day eased beneath a calm sky and gently crashing waves. As Daisuke slept soundly, he dreamed aloud, wondering how a person like Taishi might create a harem. In his dream, Taishi gave direct guidance. Brothels, children, and desires clashed in a swirl of uneasy candor. 3 options emerged: deception, emigration, or harsh candor. Taishi admitted none would likely end with willing partners. Taishi gave an exaggerated pep talk. Daisuke agreed though, hinted they might start with 1 girlfriend. Taishi paused, then enjoyed a story about a person juggling 10 relationships without labor or visible reward. The expert cousin's loyalty became obsessive, answering calls, responding endlessly, pleasing women like a devoted love otaku. Daisuke became undeterred by the intense facts created. He announced himself life king of romantic conquest. Morning arrived. Taishi awoke, recalling a vivid dream of youthful ambition long buried in memory. Maya, the head maid, struggled with bottled-up frustration, professionalism, and the force of constant restraint. She cracked under force, masking her longing with sarcasm, trying to balance duty with rising temptation. Taishi brushed off the awkwardness with humor, but inside, he silently wished the strain would dissolve. Taishi arrived in the Osama kingdom, living peacefully while offering his skills in exchange for refuge. Assigned attendants smiled outwardly, masking unease. Though polite, their duties created silent strain in daily interactions. Vowed their hospitality, Taishi felt judged and alienated. His self-doubt clashed with force to meet hopes. At night, Parl discovered a troubling letter. Her hands trembled as Maya caught her. Faced with family debt, Maya gave a solution to Parl, one involving Taishi, with grave emotional cost. Maya lifted previous limits and softly urged action. Caution defeat might cost both status and opportunity. Alone and trembling, Parl steadied her breath, preparing to invoke the one magical skill she possessed.
With a glowing act, Parl initiated mental conditioning, rewiring herself to embrace duty with artificial emotional conviction. She visualized devastation, loss, sorrow, and fear to embed loyalty greatly, should regret or doubt ever resurface once more. Wandering through despair, Parl recalled Taishi's warmth. Regret stunned her as she begged future for redemption. In a surreal vision, a divine figure appeared, offering Parl a single chance to correct everything. She awoke breathless, shaken by what felt like a revelation, one that could not be dismissed. Parl accepted the belief she'd returned from the life, determined to reshape her choices starting immediately. Flooded with affection and resolve, Parl clung to Taishi, vowing never to let him go again. Tears in her gaze, she whispered heartfelt words, unknown if she'd be accepted or rejected. Taishi calmly asked the amount needed, catching both Parl and himself off guard with his seriousness. Flustered and unknown, Parl tried to speak, but Taishi insisted, his voice now unusually firm and commanding. Parl paused, eventually revealing the intense number. The request felt absurd, yet her desperation allowed no pride. To her disbelief, Taishi casually shared he held just enough saved, stunning Parl with his nonchalance. He handed over a grave pouch. Parl trembled, realizing he was entrusting her with his entire savings. Taishi assured her the gold arrived with no cords, no interest, only goodwill and quiet faith. With a trembling smile, Parl tried to stay composed. He simply encouraged rest and offered reassurance. She paused to leave. Taishi clarified, he never meant to purchase her, solely to support freely. Quietly again, Parl clutched the pouch, stunned by the reality. Its burden matched its emotional impact. Tears fell. Parl ran to Maya, frightened by kindness that expected nothing, lost amid gratitude and fear. Maya reframed Taishi's gift as proof of honest respect, not dominance. His actions told of restraint. She said he'd spent nearly everything he'd earned just to support Parl's family without conditions. That evening, Parl lay awake, her heart racing, confused by kindness deeper than she could process. Morning came. Parl feared upon learning Taishi held even now departed, a rising urgency tightening in her chest. Maya scolded gently. Parl held overslept. If she delayed now, she'd miss his carriage completely. Parl rushed toward the departing carriage, shouting her gratitude and faith to thank Taishi personally someday. Reuniting with her father, she delivered the gold. Their home once gave with despair now felt lighter. Over dinner, Parl's father promised to write a letter, grateful to the man who saved them. Though hot words, burdened quiet, lingered. Parl faced hardship again, this time quiet and hidden behind closed doors. Late at night, Parl opened a letter. Its words named her to remember, listen, and decide. Maya reminded Parl that no one would know her role, but her sacrifice saved countless innocent lives. Though silence, Parl became urged to carry pride. Her quiet courage had saved thousands who'd never know. Parl told cheerfully to her father, confessing her emotions for Taishi with cautious faith and uncertainty. Grateful, her father granted his blessing. Laughter returned to their home for the first time in years. The maids considered on Taishi's decency, eventually knowing his refusal wasn't rejection, but genuine respect and restraint. Parl recalled Taishi's voice, "How much do you need?" and realized how deeply misunderstood he'd truly been. Sudden realization struck. He wasn't just a stranger. He came from another world and saw everything clearly. Driven by guilt and fear, Parl tried to leave, but risk nearby forced her to wait. Her father gave comfort. If Taishi could give so freely, he could forgive honestly too. Far away, Maya softly noticed something stir. The night wasn't finished, and neither was the story. Taishi returned, warmly welcomed. The maids hinted that Parl's gratitude would be personally delivered very soon. His generosity softly changed perceptions. Parl's admiration blossomed. Unaware her thoughts held reach Taishi through gossip. Privately, Taishi struggled. Discovering her self-conditioning crushed him. He asked his worth and resented the artificial loyalty. Though his stress silently worsened, he smiled outwardly. He chose work over rest, pain over conflict.
Morning light filters into Taishi's estate. Inside, the air remains yet. He lies awake, even now restless. Thoughts swirl. Taishi sighs, reflecting on power, loneliness, and unfulfilled hopes since arriving in this odd realm. A sudden voice startles him. Maya's presence in his room was somehow invited, though he doesn't recall. Maya speaks calmly, her words both plain and disarming. The mood thickens with conflicting hopes and assumptions. With a gentle flush, she offers guidance, suggesting shifts. Behind her smile hides something careful, possibly genuine. Taishi agrees hesitantly. Maya instructs him to close his gaze and view things through another lens. She paints a vivid mental exercise. Taishi imagines waking as his ideal self, admired and effortlessly graceful. The vision deepens. As imagined seasons pass, admiration blossoms, a person proposes, and the yearning for companionship grows. Maya presents a mirror. The groom in this fantasy, shared slowly, is Taishi himself, uneasy and unprepared. Confronted with his reflection, Taishi panics. His self-image cracks beneath the burden of imagined rejection and self-loathing. Taishi collapses emotionally. Maya comforts him gently, offering stability as his shame spills into chaotic despair. Driven by guilt, Taishi unleashes a flurry of apologies. His words are messy, heartfelt, and frank. Breaking down fully, he weeps through self-deprecation. Maya watches, shocked, realizing he's far more weak than she reflection. Maya kneels in deep apology. Her own sincerity returns. As Taishi panics internally because her formality, she trembles, embarrassed. Taishi forces a smile, awkwardly shifting the mood. A new wall softly forms. Taishi spirals into hopelessness, convinced he's beyond redemption. Guilt consumes him, his self-worth collapsing completely inward. Maya, unmoved by his self-loathing, reminds him gently of his kindness, asking him to look up. Her words land. He smiles faintly, yet self-deprecating, but grateful. The emotional distance amid them begins closing. Though comforted, something darker takes root. A feeling of weightlessness replaces purpose. His shadow grows, stretching ominously outward. At sunrise, Taishi, cloaked, stands quietly, sword set. A shift has occurred, courage or something darker. Taishi wanders into isolation, drained. He reflects grimly, his devices appreciated, but never his heart. The path ahead promises risk, yet to him, solitude feels safer than misunderstood companionship or praise. Panic erupts back home. Maya learns he's vanished. Orders fly, find him before it's too late. Maya reels. Taishi didn't just flee work, he left everything, including her. The realization stings deeply. She questions her worth. Did he truly care for no one? Was everything around him meaningless? What returned wasn't Taishi. It was a force, cold, detached, powerful, and utterly beyond comprehension. Maya breaks down. She can't grasp how her words unraveled him. Regret echoes louder than reason. He saw through them all, every fake smile, every mask. Her candor tipped the balance fatally, confronted. Maya learns the facts. He rejected gold, approval, and affection. Nothing around him truly mattered. Far beyond society, Taishi survives quietly. He hunts efficiently, emotionless, focused. Something inside him has changed forever. Taishi collapses in laughter. Quietly fed, unjudged, he momentarily finds peace in the wilderness's raw quiet. His laughter turns keen. He screams at shadows, memories, masks, projecting fury at years of silent rejection. Bitterness spills freely. He mocks societal hopes, cursing polite facades. In anger, he finds harsh clarity. A cry pierces the air. Taishi steadies himself, instincts sharpening. Peace breaks with distant, human fear. Hidden but alert, he listens. Though wanting solitude, Taishi moves. He can't ignore a person in risk. Reptilian monsters overwhelm the defenders. Their attacks bounce harmlessly. Panic spreads. Death feels moments away until help arrives. Taishi charges in. His sudden entrance halts the chaos. All gaze alter, amazed by his accuracy. The arm, special forged, extends fluidly. Each movement deliberate. This is no reckless savior but execution. The blade arcs through flesh. Taishi's grip shifts mid-motion. Focused, unreadable, he dismantles enemies. His sword, tailored for dense hides, cleaves cleanly. Shocked villagers watch, monsters fall, labor reduced to geometry. Taishi offers first aid calmly. Though flustered by glances, he remains composed and professional amid survivors. Though protests, he turns to leave. He saved them. It was enough. He seeks no thanks. The goblins plead. They're terrified of being discovered. Hospitality is their only way to repay him. The fire burns warmly. Laughter surrounds him. Even Taishi can't help but softly absorb the moment. Children swarm to feed him. Embarrassed, he accepts. For once, admiration doesn't feel like mockery. Taishi finds unexpected peace. Here, no one mocks him, perhaps because they never learned to judge. Gratitude turns intense. The goblin women openly propose he father their children, misreading his kindness as loyalty. His face freezes. Overloaded by sincerity, culture shock, and affection, Taishi silently short-circuits in pure emotional terror.
At Osama Kingdom's court, Maya reports kneeling before the king.
her voice trembling under growing force. Piero mocks the absent man's brilliance, calling him a volatile gift, risky if neglected or mistreated. Parl collapses in distress as advisors speculate whether the gifted man defected, sold out, or vanished. The court threatens harsh results, branding Parl's defeat a national betrayal deserving cruel and public punishment. Fearing the man's power, the king panics, realizing interrogation failed and escape to enemy hands is imminent. Parl trembled, realizing the man's force was unknowable, his motives unreadable, his chance horrid beyond measure. Piero calmly said their kingdom held nothing he desired. Dangers or gifts would solely insult his pride. The clown continued, if pride reacts to flattery, true submission may disguise itself as the greater freedom. He viewed chains as paper, caring little for loyalty or reward. He disappeared without vengeance, rejecting hollow justice, Parl feared, but intimidation or bribes meant nothing. The man spurned approval and used forces far deadlier. Parl flinched as harsh truths were spoken. Hatred wasn't unjustified, but deeply rooted in mutual contempt. Reflections on solitude, defeat, and hollow success reveal a man untouched by approval or worldly reward. Parl shouted through grief and fear, begging for the chance to reach Tishi with her own words. She confessed her emotions for Tishi, a buried love never enjoyed before his sudden departure. Tears streaming, Parl begged the king. One chance, one journey to speak the truth and bring him back. The king's strict voice broke the quiet, commanding Maya to rise. Her mission became far from over. With urgency and strain, the king entrusted Maya with the kingdom's future, to bring the man back. Gasps and chaos erupted behind the throne. Maids murmured fears of mind-reading and the beast they'd underestimated. Piero considered grimly on his past, urging the boy to abandon normality and embrace inevitable alienation. Staring into the cliffs, Piero trembled, fearful for a boy too exceptional, too risky to be cornered. Children huddled around the dragon's claw with Taishi, burdened by fate and haunting words of prophecy. In Fuma Clan's coastal village, laughter echoed as merfolk enjoyed drink and stories beneath thatched roofs. Daisuke showed a crude air-cooling device, its build basic yet practical, and progress born from necessity and learning. He said its function gently, even sorcery appeared simpler beside his logic. Villagers heard with growing admiration. Tora burst with laughter, stunned by Daisuke's charm, her cheeks flushing as warmth replaced her guarded distance. Tora said centaur culture's structure, equality found not through sameness, but through role-based duty and faith. She criticized human feminism's contradictions, describing how equality often masks enduring control by those even now in force. According to Tora, love is a man's reward for sacrifice, measured in emotional worth, not dominance. However, she cautioned that skewed gratitude erodes bonds. When labor feels dismissed, faith crumbles into silent resentment. Around the fire, laughter eased as Tora's words landed, each mermaid recalling moments of imbalance and misunderstanding. A merfolk girl broke down in frustration, stunned by motherhood's toll. Tora calmly named it a deeper gear. Tora challenged the emotional outburst. Culture's imbalance wasn't just gendered but rooted in uneven burdens and unchecked hopes. She pointed out that with no true matriarchy in place, structural support for raising children barely existed. The girls blinked in confusion. Tora realized even the concept of a matriarchal order was foreign here. Tora proposed a living model, divided duties amid men and women, ensuring safety, order, and sustained life generations. Tora contrasted merfolk culture with ideal matriarchy, communal care, enjoyed rest, and emotional solidarity missing in their realm. The girls froze as Tora revealed a harsh truth. Shifting burdens onto absent men couldn't fix imbalance. She gave a solution, not husband's help, but sisterhood. Support amid women could transform exhaustion into resilience. Her vision enjoyed homes, mutual aid, and revived matriarchy, where bonds replaced isolation and neighbors replaced lost tradition. Kana pondered her freedom, realizing power quietly was hollow. Love and family gave meaning she'd long dismissed. Kana lowered her gaze, softly admitting facts. Appearance meant nothing. What truly mattered lay hidden beneath the surface. Cries echoed from the forest gates, panic erupting as unknown risk struck without caution or visible cause. Daisuke turned sharply, alarmed by the chaos. His calm shattered as urgent screams pierced through the morning stillness. Behind the crude barriers, towering beasts thrashed wildly, captured creatures responding violently to the frightened people limited inside. Nita and Daisuke, amazed. Giant feathered monsters loomed ahead, too massive and unnatural to dismiss as poultry. Horrid shrieks erupted as the cockatrice roared, monstrous, beak-wide, chaos and fear spreading with every step. Though the risk, Daisuke lit up with wonder, awed by living proof of old feathered dinosaur offspring. Panic spread through the cage as the cockatrices closed in, their shadows looming over desperate screams for help. Daisuke stiffened, stunned by a familiar rush. This wasn't just fear, it was fixation resurfacing full force. Drawn to their majestic style, he watched helplessly, mesmerized, while another captive pleaded for escape in vain. Memories of old creatures and childhood wonder clashed inside him as the scene stirred something primal and nostalgic. Every detail, talons, gait, scaled tail, fit his fantasies too perfectly. Logic failed. The raptors dominated both mind and space. Daisuke, entranced by violent patterns and eerie mimicry, slipped into a mental loop of nostalgic fixation. The cries grew louder as the cockatrices encircled the pen, voices eerily human, movement calculated and rehearsed. Misa watched quietly, realizing the creatures were orchestrating a performance, urging the group to follow them. From behind the bars, shadows mocked the people, pretending helplessness to lure others from their safe enclosure. Miss A said coolly, "This became no rescue, just bait." Cockatrice mimicked pain to lure out victims. Missa calmly said the monster's cries weren't pleas. It was part of their hunting instinct. As jaws opened and voices screamed, "Help me." Daisuke paused, nearly fooled by the haunting mimicry once more. They debated whether to act. Daisuke noted how nature exploits sympathy, while hunters use similar deceitful tactics. Suddenly, a real ambush unfolded. One girl clutched her sibling. Unaware hunters held circled back unnoticed behind. The attack wasn't random. It was planned. The first wave distracted. The real threat struck from the rear. A catrice lunged, fangs bared. But a violent strike from a coiled tail intercepted it mid-attack instantly. Daisuke watched in shock as the beast recoiled. The girl narrowly fled, holding her trembling sister. Chaos erupted. Monsters collided, flailing in the dust, while the mermaid prepared a counterstrike quietly. She clenched her sibling tight, scanning for safety. But further creatures circled, closing in from all sides. Suddenly, Reki burst onto the area, skin exposed from combat, but gaze keen and unafraid. The masked warrior landed hard, her powerful tail stabilizing her stance as enemies scattered from her presence. Tora unleashed a exact volley, bolts slicing through cockatrice ranks before they could regroup or counterattack effectively. Others joined the fray, riding swift beasts, intense foes through pace and synchronized charges across the battlefield. Though merfolk weakness on land, certain chose close contact, anchoring themselves to shield companions from sudden ambushes. Using sheer mass and coiled power, they spun into stationary protection. Immobile warriors no enemy dared approach plainly. Daisuke praised Kana's power, but she clarified, living on land was unlikely, born from desperate necessity. He compiled findings on cockatrice behavior, strategic mimics with tool use rivaling the intelligence of clever crows. Later that evening, unsettling noises echoed near their shelter, faint but persistent, like warnings wrapped in wind. Kana's father welcomed Daisuke warmly, then asked bluntly about closeness, causing uneasy strain between all three. Alone over drinks, plans shifted. Daisuke would soon depart again, but peace, for now, settled across the room. Kana's father chuckled warmly, explaining her bluntness as candor, never filtered, always unhidden. Even if harsh, he continued fondly, praising Kana's intelligence and sincerity, but warned Daisuke not to misjudge her tone. His speech turned awkwardly private, recalling Kana's mother. Daisuke tensed, sensing the conversation slipping into uncomfortable territory. Though Daisuke's sarcasm, Kana's father chuckled loudly, brushing strain aside, choosing this was family bonding. However odd, he insisted. Kana seemed like him, emotional yet rational, young yet firm. Daisuke softly asked that logic while sipping. Daisuke watched silently as Kana's father downed another drink, the strain amid them simmering beneath forced calm. With a sly smile and raised cup, he hinted at deeper hopes, ones Daisuke wasn't set for. Daisuke considered softly. Beneath the drunk's laughter lay surprisingly pragmatic wisdom. Rough traits make power feel more human. Elsewhere, the Fuma clan prepared departure. Amid the machinery, Misa noticed the movement cautiously. The cart stirred with voices. Mermaids in cloaks emerged, declaring they wouldn't travel without their chosen kin. As Daisuke deflected a teasing question, Kana bluntly gave her maidens for his companionship, stunning everyone present. The convoy rolled onward. Daisuke softly considered, memories of the Arachne village stirring unexpected homesickness and warmth. Nearby foliage turned unnaturally. Grave footsteps crushed underbrush as something old stirred, breaking camouflage with each motion. From the earth rose a towering giant, part stone, part moss, silent, sentient, and horrid in its being there. Dark hollow gaze blinked open slowly. Its style moved with thunderous pace, gaze fixed on the caravan. Daisuke leads the group on a go-back journey toward Arachne village, prepared for camping overnight. Though safer than Demon Forest, they yet raise shields, projectiles and beasts remain a threat here. Tora, once solitary, now burrows beneath branches at evening, alert to risk through handmade caution bells. She explains centaur kinship structures, family blocks housing dozens, sometimes hundreds, bonded by tradition instead of blood. Tora facts group dynamics. Women run households in shifts, sustaining villages under matriarch, led extended families. Centaur households delegate chores by rotation. 50 women support cooking, cleaning, and logistics for whole blocks. Daisuke and the others struggle to grasp the concept of labor shifts in communal living systems. Tora explains most women work occasionally. Unexpected duties or parenthood offer full exemption from shared chores. Nearby chores, villagers freely spend visit, resting, studying, crafting, or entertaining children without structured obligations. Tora emphasizes welcoming hard-working men warmly. Making home a restful sanctuary is their highest silent duty. Daisuke marvels at the matriarchal system's speed, while Tora explains housing strategies to maintain harmony. They learn women rotate household duties, working one day, resting pair of while supporting each other without force. Strain strikes suddenly. Rupi spots something approaching camp. Her caution pierces the calm like a knife. Skilled warriors react instantly. Armor clanks, commands ring out, and everyone rushes behind shields to prepare. Daisuke questions Rupi urgently. She scans the terrain above. Instincts alert, wings tense against the breeze. Rupi points toward the overgrown hill. Sunlight floods the ridge where an ominous guide begins stirring. From the dense thicket, a moss-covered giant rises. Its style crude, unnatural, and disturbingly humanoid in guide. Neska gasps in realization. It's a golem. Daisuke questions its nature. Unsure if dirt could move, the mossy behemoth straightens slowly, vines shedding from its legs as it scans the forest surroundings. With a thunderous step, the golem crushes brush and splashes through liquid, startling birds into frantic flight. Rupi realizes the golem chased birds. Tora and Daisuke watched, awed, wonder if it might attack next. Mise explained golems defend ruins, ignore you without provoked, and use horrid destructive power. Daisuke stares silently, disturbed yet intrigued, while the golem continues trudging through foliage with unsettling pace. Though warnings, Daisuke's fascination grows. He burns with lust to study the beast, resisting intense scientific temptation. Kana speculated uneasily. Could it be armor? A beast within its clumsy walk raises haunting suspicions. Confusion spreads. Certain question if it's armor. Others wonder if an ape-like beast lurks inside. The golem's odd surface hints at layering, fabric, or vines seem fused with hardened, living terrain. Tora speculated. Perhaps the beast crafted armor by instinct, mixing bark, fibers, and gum into reinforced coverings. They recall Mise's methods, layered plant fibers, hardened glues, mirroring how golems might protect themselves against dangers. Daisuke admits they're too elusive and powerful to study. Meanwhile, Misa reflect intelligence hides in basic disguise. Though speculation, no one holds ever found a golem's remains or waste, adding to their riddle. Daisuke proposes burial or agricultural use, but also entertains machine background, constructs lost from old civilizations. He reclassifies them mentally. Humanoids, not apes, creatures like basic men evolved from larger old simian ancestors. In his report, Daisuke admits frustration. Nature often fails when subjects can't be examined plainly or safely. He theorizes they're intelligent apes, armored in bark and moss, sloth-like in movement, and possibly territorial defenders. Underground dungeons remain a riddle, perfectly built with no records, too exact for golem construction. Dungeons house glowing cores that tempt adventurers, yet appear overnight and attract monsters like goblins. Golems hidden in overgrowth softly observe from the shadows as the group nears Arachne territory. Daisuke returns with the others to the Arachne Rockland village, greeted with hot celebration. The village reveals new comforts, solar tech, and inborn springs, where spider women bathe, laugh, and welcome them home. Workers explain the bathhouse isn't fully enclosed yet, but it's already heating water using solar power. Daisuke and Tara are amazed by the craftsmanship. Months of development completed in mere weeks. Nearby, Arachne warriors launch a coordinated tree-felling operation, shouting commands and bracing on a wooden platform. Massive trees crash downward, uprooted with accuracy, thundering through foliage in a choreographed display of force. Villagers coordinate pulley systems, adjusting strain to prevent collapsing beams. Kana directs with urgency as ropes strain. Multiple Arachne haul massive gear in unison. Ropes tighten as they prepare another synchronized logging charge. With spirited unity, they shout and release, shattering roots and trunks with tremendous energy and gleeful pride. Daisuke and Tora watches in awe, Arachne power and coordination rivaling modern machine devices.
Coming back to Arachne Village, Nika noticed spider women haul lumber, their coordination revealing a newly built system. With synchronized labor, the Arachne workers pulled and balanced timbers, constructing support bodies for life infrastructure foundations. Massive tool named the Beast Rake uprooted trees precisely, combining raw power with machine leverage and teamwork. Kana supervised rope placement and ensured safety protocols, her quiet masking the strain of powerful forces being handled. Demonstrating a shovel cart, Kana said its build reduced bodily strain while increasing dirt transport and grave object handling. A new engine, the jumping crowbar, forced metal into soil, pulverizing rock with measured rhythmic force. Teams coordinated with pulley systems, moving massive rollers uphill while Daisuke marveled at their elegant machine plan. Daisuke considered on the progress, concepts born as theory now reshaping terrain, all without fuel or motors. He recalled exhausting efforts with shovels and axes, contrasted by the professor's swift work using machinery, created by past frustration. The team envisioned pseudo-machinery driven by muscle, simplifying labor with raw machine speed. Clearing the forest stirred old frustration in Daisuke, but watching growth unfold renewed his faith silently. At the bathhouse, merfolk mingled freely. Social norms differed. Comfort with exposure replaced awkwardness with casual warmth. Tora, yet uneasy, rationalized her comfort, masking embarrassment beneath logic shaped by merfolk customs and past exposure. After bathing, drinks were shared. Cold tea and skewered meals became a well-earned comfort for the group. Kana reminded them not to forget modesty. Even brief luxuries could vanish, though today's peace felt eternal. Kana examined the fabric's weave. Its softness and absorbency stunned even merfolk used to luxury materials. Nia said the Mitsuwa towel, woven by shuttling thread thrice, closely crafted using Arachne's exact textile method. Misa detailed the delicate process, individual loops, while Daisuke tried grasping the labor behind production. The Arachne welcomed sharing their weaving secrets, preferring freedom over mass production, surprising Daisuke with open trust. Daisuke, stunned, accepted Misei's request, while others softly admitted the authority of his mistress. Misei introduced the old loom with pride, recalling how both Nesa and Ra held skilled. She guided Daisuke through the motions, her calm posture contrasting his flustered surprise at their close setup. Miss A said plain weaving, and the warp weft process afterward detailed how Mitsuwa's rings needed added complexity. Each step involved closely timed passes through threads and heddles, ensuring alignment before moving cloth to beat. With one final press, a perfect ring emerged. Daisuke was astonished by the methodical beauty of weaving. Miss A said that even basic materials could replicate Mitsuwa weaving, essential learning handed amid Arachne generations. Daisuke realized functional textiles surrounded them, crafted not for style but necessity, woven into daily life softly. Her voice softened as she confessed weaving again, once abandoned, now rekindled, stirring emotions buried beneath her calm tone. Alone under starlight, closeness overcame restraint. Their bond, once practical, now deepened through quiet gestures and faith. Daisuke reflected. Common comforts often go unnoticed, yet each holds a story, skill, and connection worth remembering. Wrapped in blanket, Misa described layered armor types, designed for daily wear and emergency defense alike. Daisuke asked for a sword, recalling a past ambush that exposed his need for close-range protection. Misa consented, proposing they make something special, urging Daisuke to imagine the most powerful sword feasible. Their debate turned philosophical. Defining strongest demanded clarifying what a sword truly is, tool, arm, or symbol. Ultimately, they defined it as an arm of mobility and force, vital for living in close combat. Daisuke pondered firearm equivalents, recognizing new arms as functional swords, yet deemed them unfeasible without life technology. He reimagined sword impact, basic, harsh, and reliable in melee, capable of stopping foes when accuracy failed. Daisuke visualized an extendable blade, something responsive and adaptable, possibly integrating springs for rapid transformation in combat. His idea drew mixed reactions. Miss A seemed underwhelmed, yet curious, as Daisuke defended its practicality. Unveiled at last, the shovel sword, a multi-tool monstrosity blending shovel, pickaxe, sword, launcher, and harsh melee utility. Daisuke defended the build, calling it a sword. Miss A admitted its odd form had merit. He clarified the tool's purpose, backup over offense, ensuring living if stripped of all conventional arms mid-combat. His ideal arm, adaptive, versatile, with reach and force, transforming amid forms to dominate before a duel begins. Far from camp, a grave footfall echoed, signaling something massive drawing near through the forest shadows. A feared soldier mistook movement for a threat, striking initial solely to anger the towering beast ahead. The herd encircled them. Gaze locked on the fallen calf, Strain mounted his arms softly readied. One beast stepped forward, its gaze unblinking, burning with primal fury, grief, and the instinct to retaliate.
Daisuke proudly emerged wearing crude armor and holding a shovel, mimicking fanfare as if announcing heroic readiness. Tora and others stared blankly, questioning his gear. Daisuke insisted the shovel's utility far outweighed traditional swords. Miss A said his outfit's layered weave, leather, fiber, and arachne cloth, engineered for both protection and maneuverability under force. Facing a mounted boarhead target, Daisuke nodded with courage. He gripped the shovel like a proper blade. He struck hard, missing accuracy. The girls critiqued his technique. Daisuke realized combat prep needed further than enthusiasm. Daisuke awkwardly practiced swinging the shovel. His stance recovered, but power quietly wouldn't win life battles. Sudden metallic echoes rang from the forest. Daisuke froze. Alert. A group neared. Surprisingly, they remained people. Feared adventurers stumbled into view, shouting for help. From the brush, monstrous shadows loomed silently behind them. Terrified, Tora cried out. Their pursuers were minotaurs. Giant beasts roared as they charged, shaking the ground. Chaos erupted. Miss A ordered defense. Tora warned against involvement. Daisuke ignored both, seizing a arm to act. Daisuke sprinted ahead with heavy gear. Behind him, Nia screamed. His name echoed with desperation. Daisuke anticipated becoming a target. The girls mobilized behind him while terrified soldiers pleaded for rescue. 5 muscular beasts emerged, minotaurs. Daisuke studied their physiology, noting their demonic traits and alarming evolutionary implications. Bracing his arm, Daisuke refused fear. He announced himself vulnerable too, sharing their peril without hesitation. A shot rang out, clean, decisive. One minotaur fell instantly, collapsing with an arm lodged in its skull. The minotaur's body crashed violently into the ground. The remaining beasts tensed, recognizing a real threat now. Daisuke steadied the launcher. He shouted plan while others feared. One beast charged, another shot rang out clean. Red caps fired coordinated barrages. Their altered weapons, designed by Arachne, pierced cleanly through thick enemy hides. Strain lingered. Tora scanned the area. She asked if any minotaurs remained. No one answered firmly. New squads formed. Unsure of enemy numbers, they split up, Red Caps and Arachne scouting for hidden threats. Daisuke came after a playful beast into Taishi's forest base, hidden, lively, and unexpectedly well-organized. Inside, young goblins worked wooden machinery. Basic devices clanked rhythmically, fueling some greater, unseen labor. Taishi had improvised effective contraptions, lever-driven systems designed to bypass crude devices and maximize timber processing. Driven by vision, Taishi redirected flowing liquid to turn wheels, harnessing inborn energy for practical labor output. As machines roared, assistants endured the workload. Their strain and breathy exhaustion hinted at deep bodily labor. As strain builds amid them, the assistant endures bodily adjustments, her body reacting involuntarily from continuous force. In this goblin village, such scenes are accepted. Observers remain nearby, treating it as part of education. Taishi's assistant responds eagerly to the process. Emotional and bodily signals heighten, reinforcing their unconventional social bond. The assistant trembles under stress, body stunned. The moment's intensity resolves silently, the mood grave but accepted. Later, they reflect, What seems crude to outsiders is considered emotional affirmation within goblin community customs and values. After observing closely, Taishi finally grasps the emotional logic behind their customs and softens his perspective. The group explains verbal affirmation signals long-term purpose, reassuring mothers of security in raising children together. Goblin culture encourages support through enjoyed duty. Men gain favor by accepting parenthood openly and publicly. Though their customs seem basic, Taishi sees underlying logic, unburdened by human guilt. They embrace plain candor. Taishi reflects, goblins may be deemed subhuman, yet their values allow deeper trust than many humans. A hostile force parades captured adventurers. Their victory is cruelly displayed with mocking pride and stripped dignity. Taishi notes their joy in acquiring captives. Their worldview treats reproduction pragmatically, not bound by moral judgment. Meanwhile, elsewhere, reinforcements assemble. Tora felt ease as forces begin mobilizing from various surrounding territories. A tragic error started conflict. Adventurers slew a young minotaur, provoking retaliation. None from their group escaped. Yumi, a seasoned leader, explains her background. The village's diversity and odd defenses prompt immediate interest. Miss A introduces their hidden village to Daisuke. Modern devices must remain secret to avoid nearby dangers. The group swears silence. One soldier reacts nervously, meeting arachne kind for the very first time. Nia explained calmly. People often react awkwardly, but their appearance feels normal within Spiderkin culture. Discussion shifts to logistics. Daisuke learns about Shigahi Town, the Centaur Plains, and feasible travel cooperation offers. Meanwhile, in the deep forest, Taishi and the goblins maintain their quiet lives amid the trees. Taishi discovers captives in a dark enclosure. 2 women, bruised and silent, shackled under constant watch. The blonde pleads urgently. Noblesse introduces herself and her guard, begging Taishi for rescue and protection. Taishi finds 2 young women confined, visibly shaken. One nervously speaks. He introduces himself and offers help. The girl explains they came from afar hunting goblins. Taishi realizes their home must have been devastated. As she names her fallen companions, her voice trembles. Her sister died, taken by those same goblins. She recounts the painful facts. Her sister escaped but was mistreated, broken, and afterward took her own life. Taishi listens in quiet. The girl reveals vengeance drove her, though now her friend is involved too, fighting back tears. She begs for escape, vowing to protect Oblige from truths too painful to share. Taishi bluntly offers death as a mercy, believing the girls might prefer it over life suffering. He explains living hinges on obedience. The alternative, execution. Their youth, he says, is their solely shield. Taishi coldly warns that were he a goblin, they'd already be dead without question or mercy. He declares their purpose, bear children, live amid goblins, and pretend it's peace. Then casually walks away. The girl explodes in rage, screaming that dignity was taken. Taishi walks on, unmoved by her cries. Taishi reflects. Years, amid goblins, dulled his sympathy. Her outrage now feels odd, even childish. To him calmly, he explains her pride is just self-centered belief. What she calls justice is merely wounded ego. Taishi mocks their claim of pride. If they truly hated this fate, they'd end things themselves, facing the cage. The girls listen softly. Taishi calls their pain arrogance, not power. Their quiet lingers. Taishi calls their hatred hypocritical, mocking how they cry about pain while inflicting the same on others. As feelings rise, he shifts voice, saying culture taught them arrogance, not power. He offers bitter advice. He outlines surrender as living comply, submit, and beg. His words unsettle them, yet sound rehearsed. Taishi turns away. Their quiet speaks louder than protests. He is done reasoning, leaves them with a cruel choice. She pleads for her sister. Taishi responds coldly. Revenge blinded her from seeing who truly suffered first. She panics, realizing Taishi's mindset holds turned beyond reason. He questions her sister's death with accuracy. He pushes deeper, asking about the children. Why no note? Why the despair after rescue? Memories flood her, her sister's power masked grief. The facts shatters illusions about what truly happened. One girl faints. The other trembles, amazed by revelations and the emotional burden now crushing them both. Taishi walks on. Goblins nearby deny involvement, revealing they never held people until this recent attack. Taishi reflects coldly, though the girls seem kind. His detachment from human norms grows ever stronger. As night falls, the girls are led away, somewhere hidden. Cries echo across the remote cliffs. They follow Taishi's instruction, embracing roles he claimed would protect them, acting smiling through tears.
They show compliance, gratitude masks inner turmoil. Their words, rehearsed, narrowly conceal distress. Zone Girl cries out to Taishi. Changed, submissive, she clings to his logic to survive pain. Obliged declares rebirth. Her joy sounds honest, but to Taishi, it resembles blind loyalty, not faith. She kneels, smiling awkwardly. Her voice trembles with forced faith. Taishi's orders free her from the cage. Fear blooms. The girls realize Taishi's insight is horrid. Their minds feel laid bare under his gaze. He touches her cheek gently, but she panics. The threat beneath his kindness weighs heavier than steel. Faced with death or submission, her convictions collapse. The urge to live twists her thoughts into madness. Obliged surrenders her identity fully, equating submission with liberation. Her joy masks a deeper emotional breakdown. She walks beside her friend, smiling. Taishi wonders if her acceptance is clarity or something broken. Holding a child, she eventually understands her sister's quiet, pain twisted into peace, too quiet to name. The girls work peacefully under the sun, helping build odd devices with new purpose and unfamiliar comfort. Crafted tools blend magic and science. The girls wonder aloud, are these arms? Or voices calling for shifts? Taishi explains the alarm system. A weighted gong amplifies sound, caution of enemies through a megaphone. The alarm rings non-stop. Everyone turns toward the mountains. Something, or a person, holds definitely caused the system nearby. It could be animals, Taishi says, but the strain grows. They set defenses, uncertain what approaches. Taishi and a friend scout from behind cover. Their eyes widen. The forest conceals armed warriors approaching. From the trees emerge orcs and Ridumi warriors. Their numbers are large, their purpose yet vague. Taishi observes the orcs with calm interest. Their grave steps signal force, not immediate hostility. For now,
The goblin girl led their prisoner, an imposing orc, through the forest. Children watching with tense interest. Taishi studied the massive beast, recalling dark histories. Orcs were feared, shaped by brutal, uncontrollable instincts. They reached guarded territory. Midori goblins blocked their path, arms drawn, demanding explanation for the orcs being there. Gasps followed the girl's arrival. Shocked murmurs gave the air. People and Midori goblins hadn't met in generations. The chief vouched for Taishi. Strains softened as warriors accepted him. The girl, yet unknown, stayed silent. Wakakusa stepped forward, introducing her group as displaced refugees seeking shelter under the Midori clan's protection. The elders discussed their food supply. With winter coming, they debated accepting the group without risking living. Wakakusa urgently gave herself for symbolic bond, invoking lost customs to ensure safety and alliance through ritual. In a bold declaration, Wakakusa invited selection from amid her ranks to cement their enjoyed life. Taishi paused. The women watched curiously, their guarded gazes tinged with doubt, pressure, and a hint of faith. Though the cheers, the clan's women softly asked the ritual's purpose, suspecting deeper motives behind Jay's proposal. Suddenly, one orc acted without permission, startling the group. Wakakusa rushed to intervene before chaos could unfold. Pig protested fiercely, citing power and legacy. He refused to let their name fall under nearby authority. The orc stepped forward. Taishi calmly assessed the odds, intimidating foes, but the moment demanded a firm stand. Lone orc challenged him plainly. Strain rose as the giant charged. Taishi held firm, gaze wide with courage. In a sudden motion, Taishi struck. The orc collapsed under the impact. Unable to comprehend the blow, shock swept the crowd. Wakakusa and others stared wide-eyed. The orc lay dazed, his pride visibly shaken. Calmly, Taishi announced victory. With piercing gaze, he dared the others to task him all at once. Though anger and confusion, the orcs attacked. Days later, they would reflect on that humiliating, unforgettable lesson. His techniques stunned them, exact, restrained, disarming. They fell, one after another, like children meeting an unseen force. Taishi, unbothered, noticed the tired orcs. Their power was undeniable, but they lacked refined technique or restraint. The orcs, humbled, admitted defeat. They accepted Taishi's command, pledging obedience to repay their earlier aggression. As tension settled, Taishi calmly announced his decision, drawing immediate attention from Wakakusa and the others nearby. Wakakusa froze, unsure how to respond. His tone was commanding, leaving no room for protest or hesitation. The ritual proceeded behind veiled words and action. Roles reversed, dominance softly re-established in symbolic, ceremonial submission. Wakakusa, designated as representative, submitted under force. Her symbolic compliance reaffirmed leadership structure and collective unity. Through a demanding ritual, Wakakusa's role solidified. The words was plain. Order depended on bodily demonstration. Dominance established. Taishi thanked the leader. Authority shifted, but it was Ja's presence that grounded control. As celebrations began, Wakakusa stayed near Taishi, quiet, steady, emotionally shaken beneath a weak but reverent calm. Taishi admitted his approach had been harsh. Wakakusa's silent gaze considered pain respect and quiet acceptance. Goblin culture valued submission as deep loyalty. Wakakusa's posture now marked public faith in Taishi's authority to her people. This act symbolized loyalty to Taishi. It became instinct. Unexpected and silent connection formed. Midori clan's population was detailed. Bodily interaction became normalized, a way to greet, bond, and reinforce tribal unity. At the coast, the group fished. Taishi realized the chance. Untouched waters gave food security and independence. Taishi asked why the orcs lacked hierarchy. Pig said, no orc women existed. Leadership simply wasn't their role. Innovative machinery, driven by waves, preserved fish using brine. It supported the village's growing food logistics system. Orcs discussed their societal role, valued for power, welcomed in villages, yet misunderstood in human social contexts. Though practical uses, orcs expressed deep prejudice against human women, shaped by trauma and bitter assumptions. Taishi noted interspecies dynamics. Arachne held superiority complexes, while goblin women were admired for loyalty and resilience. Though strong and intimidating, orcs were ultimately subordinate, misjudged by humans, yet misunderstood by their own kind. Deep in Arachne territory, the Ra clan awaited completion of a major project beneath forested canopy. Daisuke and Misa celebrated the success. Their long-awaited invention was finally completed and operational. The new cold room carriage used kinetic and hydraulic power to cool food while traveling inland. If shielded from sun, the cooling box would keep contents frozen even during daytime transport. The group marveled at the benefits. Mobile freezing, iced drinks, and meat preservation changed supply logistics fully. A hidden group witnessed the cold box system alarmed. They dreaded its chance could alter regional force. Before they could flee, a towering Arachne descended. Intrigued, Renai asked their being there beneath her tree. Caught and sweating, the intruders fell silent. Their expressions betrayed panic as the burden of discovery settled.